Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of racing in the Next Gen Racing BTCC Mini League for 2024 as brought to you on one of the premier sim racing platforms available on PC known as rFactor2. And tonight we continue the story of our 4-round season with round 3 of 4 here at the Cheshire County Circuit known as Oulton Park, a circuit that is widely regarded as a staple of touring car racing in the United Kingdom and played host to a round of TCR UK since its inception 2018 all the way through to today, and haven't been featured on the British Touring Car Championship or the BTCC calendar all the way since the 1970s. It is a circuit like no other when it comes to fine, precise racing. With a very narrow road surface and an extensive length of corners, it is a circuit whereby track position is absolutely critical to success, but that's not to say overtakes are impossible here. Indeed, to be able to make an overtake at Oulton Park, you've got to be bold, you've got to be brave, and you've got to be willing to get those elbows out, as it's the only way you're going to be able to find a way through, given the fact that the circuit is narrow enough only for 2 cars wide at the best of times, and to go battling into a corner means you've got to have full commitment. But as our drivers get ready to go racing today, the big question will be who will be the one who's able to show the outright pace when it comes to qualifying, and in turn also be able to turn things on their head and be able to go elbows out racing all the way through when we do have our second and third races, and of course that all important reverse grid for the final race of the day. Well, as we welcome you all live from circuit side here to this round of racing, indeed it's so great to see many of you tuning in so far, including Louis racing there in the YouTube chat who's going to be racing on the grid today, and welcome to you Louis. We look forward to seeing plenty from yourself today. We welcome you all to this broadcast live from circuit side via free media platforms for viewing pleasure. Firstly, we have the 2 official Next Gen Racing media platforms, those being of course at YouTube. If you go to youtube.com and search for Next Gen Racing, you're able to tune in there and welcome to you guys and girls via YouTube. Alternatively, you may be tuning in via Facebook right now, and that's via facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Facebook. We also have the unofficial broadcast being brought to you on Twitch at twitch.tv/TX11. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. But as we get ready to go racing today, so you may be asking, well, who is TX141? Well, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm your host and commentator for this series. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending what media you follow me on. Now I'll bring you all your racing action tonight and throughout the entirety of the season. Speaking of tonight, let's talk a little bit about our schedule for tonight. And here we can see for round number 3, all times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time at UTC, in just under what is 13 minutes time. We're going into our qualifying session, what is 15 minutes in nature. All the drives out of the circuit as at 8 o'clock this evening, after which we'll be taking a brief breather for the warm-up before we go into our first race of the day. 20 minutes of racing action, all 3 races, and our first race being at 8:15. After which we'll take a brief pause before returning at just before 9 o'clock. With the build-up to race number 2, another 20-minute race with all the drivers out there going absolutely hard and fast, batting throughout all of the evening's action. And then we'll be taking another brief breather, but not before conducting our reverse grid draw. And then we'll be making our way into our final race of the day. That'll be the race 3 partial reverse grid race. More on that in due course. And we'll be back for the build-up to that and plenty more. Will be 9:45 this evening. But as we get set and ready to go, let's give you a reminder of the championship so far and what we've still got lying in wait, starting with our calendar. And as we can see, we've moved into our 3rd round for today. It's the day before Valentine's Day, and we're showing our love for BTCC here at Next Gen Racing. We're being the 13th of February 2024, and we do apologise for the mix-up. We said at the end of last week's broadcast that we would be racing at Thruxton today, but that's going to be our season finale in a week's time, the fastest circuit in the United Kingdom, perhaps bar Silverstone. Indeed, it's going to be a thrilling finale on the 20th of February, but before all of this and before today, we start off all the way back on the 30th of January at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit in the county of Kent, and there we got off to quite the rumpers action with our drives battling hard, no doubt about it. Whether it's at the front of the field, in the middle of the field, or towards the back of the field, there were overtakes and fights aplenty in the sunny circuit of the Garden of England. And last time out on the 6th of February, we saw the weather take a turn for the worst. And well, goodness me, with the rainy conditions and the changeable conditions across all 3 races, we got to see a mix-up in the field and plenty of batting and the big gambles on who would go to dries or alternative wet tyres at Donington Park National. But today, we are here at Oulton Park, and after today, our season finale in a week's time will be at Thruxton in this all UK-based championship. But let's come on to our championship standings, because after 2 rounds of racing, here we can see Andrea Alberti now leads on 103 points to the 84 of Lloyd Biddulph, with Andrea Alberti leading the way at Donington Park and seemingly unfazed with the challenges of the wet weather conditions and those changeable conditions. However, keeping in mind as well that Lloyd Biddulph having to battle his way through the field after a dismal end to his race number 1, and in the end making his way into P2, and that's where we'll be happy to be. But these two right now definitely showing a change of pace compared to the rivals. rules, albeit let's also consider Andrea Alberti, who didn't have things quite go the way he wanted to after a fantastic season open at Brands Hatch, has fallen to P3 and 81 points, but we're looking to come back with a vengeance today and look to take the fight to both Alberti and Biddulph. We then have Lee Horn, who leads the rest of the field on 69 points. He has a 17-point advantage over Alan Axon, with Isaac Double just outside the top 5 there by a margin of 3 points from Axon, but ahead of Jamie Dory and both Dario rFactor by a single point. It's result countback that separates Dory and rFactor, and could we see the two differentiate each other today, with Mikey Doble only a further point behind net on his debut at last time out, and then Marco Garante completing a top 10 on 27 points. Outside the top 10 from the 27 points of Marco Garante, we can see here on which 27 points, and only outside the top 10 based on result countback, is Ian Deeney, who pulled off a phenomenal drive to a podium at last time out in what was race number 2 at the Donington Park National Circuit, and was looking for 2 podiums, but unfortunately things didn't quite go his way in race number 1 when the tyres fell off the cliff. Adam Delmont meanwhile sits P12 on 26 points, one ahead of Phil Garside, with Mark Sykes and Fraser Austin's completing your top 15. Point between the pair there, and it's 2 points to Finn Target in P16, who spent plenty of the action at Donington Park battling fellow Ford Focus drivers, including Fraser Austin's. Stefano Guidici, Andrew Holmes, Aaron Hampstead and Duncan Rice complete your top 20. Unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing Aaron Hampstead on the grid today, as I've been informed, due to personal circumstances. He's all well, by the way, but it's just that we're not going to be able to see him, and well, we do wish him well this fine evening if he's tuning in. Aaron, we do miss you, of course, and well, we come from our top 20 all the way down to outside the top 20, and here we see P21 Nick Clibbins ahead of Joe Lane, while Alessio Ganelli and Craig Murphy both picking up their first points of the season last time out at Donington Park National, and then yet to score any points, Jonathan Collins, Alex Ward and Craig Tillerson. But as our drivers get ready to go today, we've got new drivers on the grid, and we'll introduce them in due course, but not without introducing our circuit for today firstly, for it is the island layout of the Oulton Park Circuit, located in the region of the town of Little Budworth in the county of Cheshire in England of the United Kingdom. And this circuit, as you can see from the circuit map provided by the fellow racing simulator of iRacing.com, and thank you to iRacing for the brilliant track maps that are available, this is a circuit like no other when it comes to hard and fast racing in the United Kingdom. For Brands Hatch Indy, it was a short circuit, albeit of a rather intriguing complexity of corners, which led to some brilliant battling there. And last time at Donington Park National, it was all about finding your flow. But here, it's all about mastering the art of blind apexes and being confident at attacking each and every corner. The thing about the Oulton Park Circuit that is not articulated a two-dimensional image is the sheer variety of gradient changes and the ferocity of those gradient changes as you go around the course from lap to lap over the course of its 2.26 miles. Now keep in mind, of course, this is not the full layout of the circuit. The full international lap, we'll see our drives make their way all the way out towards the Shell Oils hairpin via Island Bend, or will we cut that off and have the Island hairpin at turn number 4? Indeed, this is the layout that's been used in BTCC for many a year. And as our drives charge away across the start-finish line straight and up towards Old Hall Corner at turn number 1, they'll come into the opening right-hander looking to manage understeer as they power their way through the apex, and as the cars are launched out, they'll charge their way down the avenue and into Denton's the right-hand kink at turn number 2. There, the road makes its way downhill and into Cascades Corner at turn number 3, but not without a major bump in the road, which will see our drivers have to negotiate what could be some significant understeer before they come through the long sweeping left-hander and up towards Lakeside as they charge their way down the straight. Hard on the brakes, they'll go into Island Bend at turn number 4, and out of the hairpin, they'll roar their way up the hilltop. There's a quick descent into Hislop's chicane at turns 5 and 6, the right into left there before they make their way into Knickerbrook Corner. A bit of history about that corner, we'll come on to that a bit later, and as they make their way out of the right-hander, where it's all about getting back on the power as soon as possible, they'll charge their way up through Clay Hill, past the Water Tower Corner at turn number 9, and into the infamous Druids Corner, the corner which can separate the Masters from the Rookies. And the fact is, a double right-hand apex, and you want to hit that last apex as late as possible in order to get it right, but hit it too early, and you'll find yourself experiencing power oversteer as you make your way over the rise that exits the corner. But if you get it right, our drivers will be charging away underneath the Warwick Bridge, which these spectators make their way on and off the circuit and make their way up towards the final corner. The final major corner that is a turn number 11 at Lodge Corner, where it's another place for battling under braking. And as they exit out, they'll need to negotiate a series of gradient changes going from high to low as they roll their way downwards and then leap over Deer Leap Corner at turn number 12 to complete the lap and do it all over again. Now, as for our rules before we go racing, indeed we need rules to go racing. Setup wise, it's a fixed setup series. Our drivers are only allowed to change certain components on the car, including which tyres they run, whether they're running dry tyres or alternatively wet tyres. They're also allowed to change the fuel load of the car and also the brake bias, but nothing more than that. Sprint race wise, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying. That's a given. The race 2 grid shall be based on the results of race number 1. And what does that mean in practice? Well, it means the winner of race 1 starts on pole for race number 2, and we take the grid order accordingly from those finishing positions. And meanwhile, the race 3 grid shall be a reverse grid based on results of race number 2, albeit a reversal position being drawn live from the commentary booth between P6 and P12. Indeed, we'll cut to the commentary booth and we'll bring out the Next Gen Racing Lottery Bowl and we'll draw a ball from the bowl, and that will be the number we reverse the grid from. And let's say we take P12 for example, well, that means our top 12 is inverted, so the winner of race number 2 starts P12 on the grid for race number 3. Meanwhile, the 12th place finisher starts on pole, but if our drivers finish 13th or lower, that's exactly where they start for race number 3. Well, that's enough rules and regulation, everything in between. You're all here for the racing and so are we. And well, as we look back to our live pictures, and we can see there one of our new drivers here today in the form of Mark Davenport, currently parked up there in the Toyota GR Corolla, waiting and ready to go in the pit lane. And well, I believe also there we do have what is Phil Garside piped up in the Honda Civic Type R just to the side. Well, meanwhile, Oulton Circuit at the moment, we go from one Honda Civic to another, and this is Alan Axon as he makes his way over Hilltop and down into Hislop Chicane. And as he comes on down right now, P2 in this final practice warm-up session, and all set and ready to go. Well, he makes his way on through. We do have a question there from Louis Racing, which is Mikey, as in Mikey Double Racing tonight. Well, he's currently not on the entrance list for tonight. He was on the grid last week, but he might be having a bit of a breather today or not be able to make it, but hopefully we'll see him back on the grid. If not today, perhaps we'll see him at Thruxton for the finale of the season. But of course, our drivers are permitted to join all the way up to and including during the qualifying session, but after which then it does mean that our drivers, if they don't make qualifying, will be starting from the back of the grid for the purposes of what will be the second race of the day. They will have to miss the first races to understand it with the way the rFactor2 server works. But as we see Alan Axon making his way on through and around, well, we also do have Louis Hesketh join us today, and that's Louis Racing in the YouTube chat, and he's going to be joining us in the pit lane there. And I do believe it will be running, unless I'm mistaken. That looks to be one of the Toyota GR Corollas and getting ready to go in that, and we look forward to seeing him out of the circuit in due course. But as we do look from him, we look to what is one of our drivers out there at the moment, and our fastest driver out there is the BMW 330e driver of Andrea Alberti. And well, Alberti has given himself a reputation of being one of the fastest drivers on this grid. There's no doubt about it as he makes his way on through, and we're expecting the front engine rear wheel drivetrain of what is the BMW to go very strongly here today, as long as the conditions stay dry. And indeed, in what might be a bit of a throwback to the battle between, I do believe it was Moffat versus Sutton in 2023, although I may be incorrect on the name of the BMW driver, and feel free to correct me, those of you who are the anoraks of the BTCC world. But we did see some brilliant batting at Oulton Park in real life last year, and I'm sure we're going to see plenty more of that this year. But as Alberti makes his way on through, definitely trying to demonstrate the nuances of the German machine as he makes his way into Druids Bend. However, do not count out this man in the Hyundai i30N Fastback, Lloyd Biddulph, the #1 driver challenging in a Tom Ingram, for the simple reason he is the driver who's definitely proven to be the pole master so far, having taken both pole positions in qualifying, both at Brands Hatch Indy and also last time out at Donington National, and he will be looking to try and make it 3 in a row today. But the problem is that he's picked up the occasional podium and even picked up several top 5s, but he's just been confounded when it comes to converting those pole positions into wins, and he'll be hoping for plenty more today, that I can assure you. And well, could we see it be an opportunity today for the Hyundai driver to take multiple wins? We'll have to wait and see. Indeed, he's picked up wins this season, including at Brands Hatch, but it just hasn't quite been perhaps the run-of-form as he expected versus his qualifying performances as he makes his way on around. Meanwhile, we do look to Craig Murphy, who's parked up in the pit lane there as well, getting himself all set and ready to go. And I believe he's going to be in the Toyota GR Corolla as well. But as he sits there waiting to go, we look to Fraser Rostons, who roars his way onto another lap, going into Old Hall Corner. And well, he does so there in the Dan Camish Ford Focus. And well, last week enjoying plenty of batting further down the field, scrapping for what was the last of the points inside the top 15. And well, whether you're fighting for wins or fighting for little points at the same time, it means a lot to these drivers. And that's why it's always great to see so many battles up and down the field. Indeed, a lot of our drivers will feel like winners just for getting a single point out of a race, let alone 2. And well, for Austin's right now, he'll be wanting to carry on that momentum from last time. But meanwhile, we do look to Louis Hesketh, who will be running in what is the Hyundai i30 in Fastback as well. And well, he makes his way down Davy Tom for today, albeit having it go a little bit sideways there onto the grass, breaking down into the island hairpin, and just having to get used to the road width down there. Indeed, an incredibly narrow circuit, I can tell you that. But as he powers his way on over the hilltop corner, we look forward to seeing what he's able to do today. And well, he was absolutely hyped to join the series, and I do believe he was tuning in last time I heard about the broadcast from round number 2, and therefore right now getting himself all set and ready to go. And keep in mind, of course, that this is a trial series for Next Gen Race. It's our first ever rFactor2 league, and well, as we look to expand our horizons, getting ourselves all set, and well, rumour has it, and I say this, rumour has it, given the success of this series so far, we might be looking at bringing a mainstay rFactor2 series to the Next Gen roster later this year. I can't confirm or deny it, but goodness me, if we were to do so, that'd be absolutely fantastic. And we do apologise there for the little bit of latency that you saw on screen. That's not your TV or your PC screen, that's on our end, and that's because we have had a couple more drivers join the server since we've gone into this practice session with only 4 minutes to go. And well, I do believe Adam Delman, the latest driver to join, and well, we look forward to seeing what Adam Delman can do today. But as we do look here to what is none other, and then Joe Lane having a bit of a miss out there, going a bit wide coming out of his turn at number 11 at Lodge Corner and bringing himself back together. Meanwhile, we do look to Ian Deeney, and well, Ian Deeney last time out definitely challenged in a Colin Turkington as he makes his way on out to the island hairpin there, and we're currently P13 in this final practice warm-up session, and he'll be looking to try and pull off another surprise podium today. Or he won't want it to be a surprise anymore, he wants it to be a commonplace. Currently P13 in this final practice session, 2 seconds off of the pole time set by Andrea Alberti. But keep in mind, practice is one thing, going qualifying is another. And well, speaking of that, Andrea Romy meanwhile parked up in the pit lane, a fellow BMW 3 Series driver, and we do know that Romy and Berti, both 2 very strong drivers in the German mark, and both itching to scrap one another. But meanwhile, as we do look to Stefano Guidici, currently parked, in fact not quite parked in the pit lane, making his way down the pit lane in the Josh Cook 66 Honda Civic Type R. And well, we do know that Guidici is looking for some strong results today. Afterwards, a little bit of a frustrating day at Donington Park National. Results not quite going his way, albeit enjoying the racing out there. I think he was hoping for a little bit more, and well, we look forward to plenty more from him as he makes his way down through Cascades and up towards Lakeside he roars. But as he does so, well, time is of the essence here in this practice session, albeit 2.5 minutes left on the clock, if that. So all the drivers now, I think, getting themselves fully clocked in and ready to go. And well, those are out there right now trying to make the most of every little bit of practice time they can, including Craig Murphy here as he brings the Toyota Corolla GR out of the circuit. And well, it's great to see the Japanese mark being represented here as he makes his way in towards what is Druids Corner. And we'll get some onboards in qualifying, taking you around a lap of the Oulton Park Island Circuit. But right now, getting that final practice, getting himself fully warmed up and ready to go. And when in terms of weather at the moment, it is looking to be very cloudy skies here. There could be the prospect of some rain on the cards as well. And we'll have to wait to see whether that rain plays a big factor. And well, as Murphy makes his way across the timeline, currently P12 in this practice session, 2 seconds off of the overall fastest time pace set by Alberti. Not really improving there, but I think improvement's going to come in qualifying now rather than in practice. And this is just to shake off some of the pre-qualifying nerves as he makes his way down in towards Cascades. But as he does so, meanwhile, Adam Delman making his way through Cascades, and he'll be running in the Moffat Honda Civic Type R as he comes on through the long left hand. And good to see Adam Delman on the grid, a huge NXTGEN fan and also a big BTCC fan in that. And well, now giving it a try today, and we look forward to seeing what he can do in the Honda as he makes his way on around out of Island Hairpin. As he heads on the rise over Hilltop and charges his way down towards the Hidslop chicane. Well, we're only a minute away now, ladies and gentlemen. Do let us know who you're cheering on, who you're supporting in your respective chat, whether it's on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. We can see all 3 of them. We would love to hear from you and hope you're doing well. And if you haven't had a great Tuesday, well, hopefully this broadcast will turn that frown upside down and into a smile, because that's what we'd love to see. And well, as we do look to Nick Clevins here, making his way on down towards Hidslop. Well, it's going to be plenty of smiles. I think all the drivers absolutely hyped and set and ready to go racing. Well, it's only going to be only 30 seconds away before we head into that qualifying session. But the big question will be, who will be able to take pole? Well, if we had to put the bets on, it would be Andrea Alberti, currently hidden underneath what is there, one of the spectator stands inside the pit lane, albeit I think that's more the official booth there, and some very private individuals that are being able to spectate over. But meanwhile, Lloyd Biddulph is well parked up, and well, Biddulph knowing that they can stay within 600s at least Alberti in this practice session. And well, will he be able to make it 3 pole positions in qualifying in a row and continue that unbroken chain of poles? Well, time has run out in practice. It's time for qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. Let's find out who's going to be our pole sitter for our first race of the day. And as we do have a couple more drivers joining, including Alessio Gonelli. More all drivers for Oulton Circuit will be called into the pits very shortly, and that's where we'll get the call to go to qualifying. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, 15 minutes of qualifying gets underway. All the drivers will be in their pit boxes right now and making their way out of the garages. And as they do, well, it's now going to be go, go, go. And our drivers will not want to leave anything on the table over the next quarter of an hour. In the fact that leaving any time out there could be costly in terms of qualifying position and in terms of the battles that they may be able to take on in the first race of the day. As we can see, a lot of drivers queuing down the end of the pit lane, eager to get out there, including what is the number 46 there, being piloted, I do believe, by trying to discern the number on the car. But as we do have some more drivers, we've also got Matthew Williams, who makes his debut today. I do believe running in the Vauxhall Astra there, as he gradually makes his way on out of the garage and on to the pit lane. But as he does so here, great to see him also joining. And what I can tell you, that he said he was going to be a couple of minutes late or just coming in at the start of qualifying. He's done exactly that. And we're 20 drivers here today at Oulton Park so far. It is a packed grid, and well, it's not the brightest of days, it must be said, here in Cheshire, but still, whilst it may not be bright in terms of weather, it's shining bright right now in terms of the talents and capabilities of our drivers out on circuit, and that's what we love to see. We is go, go, go for qualifying. And as we do see Lloyd Biddulph making his way on down the hilltop back straight, he's got a long line of cars behind him, all eager to put laps in as soon as possible, and Biddulph will be the driver who everybody will want to beat today, because whilst Andrea Alberti was the fastest driver in practice, nobody so far has been able to take a candle to this man when it comes to qualifying times, at least qualifying clear by a 10th in each round so far, and he'll be looking for more as we do see the field coming on through. And will Phil Garside taking his time and making his way on through the hill-slop chicane and into Knickerbrook corner, but as he comes on through the right-hander, will the Honda Stick tyre part of Joshua Cook flying high in the hands of Garside. And keep your eyes out for Garside, because he has definitely proven that the Honda has its place inside the top 5. Has been fighting hard for top 5s all season long, and he'll be looking to do plenty more of that today as he weaves and winds his way through Water Tower, trying to build up that tyre temperature, get the car fully in the zone. And as he makes his way out of Druids, will now start to build up and go on the attack, albeit a little bit of extra brake work going in there, just trying to get the front brakes warmed up as much as possible, and also the rear brakes, albeit it's going to be the fronts that are going to be doing the hard work alongside the front tyres, while the car being front engine front wheel drive. And when he makes his way in towards what is Lodge Bend, here he goes onto his first flying lap as he takes a leap out Deer Leap corner and onto his first qualifier. As he makes his way across the timeline. And meanwhile, we do look to Lee Horn in the Vauxhall Astra, and Horn last time out at Donington Park National, scrapping for what was spots inside the top 5, or as a minimum the top 10. But I think also feeling as though perhaps a little bit was left out on the table compared to what could have been at the Donington Park Circuit. So I think he'll be looking for a bit more for himself today as he makes his way on down. He'll be enjoying the racing, no less than that. But the one thing we do know about Lee is that he's a driver who's always looking to improve, looking to push himself higher and higher as he heads on through the right-hander here of what is turn number 7 at Knickerbrook corner, as he makes his way on around and on at the rise he goes, and charges his way on through and upwards towards what will be the Druids Bend. But as we're starting to see our first times coming in shortly, Andrea Alberti is the lead driver out in terms of the entire qualifying order, so he's going to set the first time to beat, albeit Andrea Romi's going faster by comparison already from what we're to understand. So as Alberti crosses the timeline, it's not going to, in fact, Heskey was the first across the timeline, we should correct ourselves, but then we can see Alberti at P4 so far, Biddulph a 25.613 to beat, but I do believe Andrea Romi's gone even faster. Indeed, he has immediately, so the time's already been raised to a 24.980, and well, with Lloyd Biddulph 6/10 of and 300ths as well. I think Biddulph's still building himself up, and now it's Andrea Romi who's been able to find what is the best opening lap time here, albeit those lap times are going to come crashing down in terms of fact. We're expecting mid-24s as the minimum for pole today, and we'll Phil Garside showing the Honda's got some life in it already, putting himself into P2, only half a tenth off of Robbie. But then again, remember, it's the first lap. The next lap round they're going to have warmer tyres, the brake's going to be fully heated up, and on top of that as well, the fuel will start to bleed out the car, and well, I would imagine our drivers will be taking enough fuel for at least 2, if not 3 flying laps before needing to come into the pits, because it does take some time to get those tyres fully into the zone, and therefore you don't want to just gamble on a single lap. And as he makes his way out to the island hairpin, meanwhile we do look to Ian Deeney, who's just in front on his first flying lap here as he makes his way down into the braking zone for what is his laps. Oh, he's kind of put together his first valid flying lap. I do believe there was an error on the previous ones. We've got car parts there in the middle of the hairpins infield, and I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that may have been an error from what was Louis Hesketh, and well, he's brought things into the pits and he'll be making his way back out to the circuit shortly. But we continue to look here at Ian Deeney as he makes his way on through Watertown in towards Druids Bend, and through at the double right apex he goes as the car is ejected out, and will for rear engine, well not for rear engine, for rear wheel drive cars such as the BMW, and that's where we can expect quite a bit of power oversteer as they come through Druids, for the simple reason the elevation changes really kick the rear of the car loose as you make your way out the corner. We expect with the front engine front wheel drive cars as well, but the BMWs will be a bit more pronounced. But as Deeney crosses the timeline, what's it going to be here for his first lap of the day? Where it is going to be what is a 27.056. That does put him 2.2 seconds off of Garside's provisional pole time, and well, Phil Garside was behind, he's immediately toasted the pits after putting that lap together. And well, from him we do look to Joe Lane, who's currently parked in the pit lane, Alessio Ganelli as well. Neither driver out there so far. Fraser Rostons gets the time on the board and puts himself P4 there in the Ford Focus. Well, that's a strong lap from Rostons, and well, right now he'll be feeling as though things are looking on the up here to put himself inside that top 10 as he makes his way down into Cascades. As he comes on through the left-hander and onwards he goes towards what will be the run towards the island hairpin. Right now only 4 thousandths off of Rafaeta's time in P3, and I think the confidence will be there that he can potentially sneak his way onto that second row and take it for his own today. But we'll have to wait and see if that's what plays out, given the fact so many drivers right now continue to look to improve, including Craig Murphy, who makes his way on through at the Hislop chicane and in towards Knickerbrook corner as he makes his way out to the right hand, one of the very limited Toyotas on our grid. And well, right now what can he do here? He's currently on a charging lap. He has not improved in sector 1. He's going towards the end of sector 2 at the moment. Will he be able to find a bit more time out there? Well, we're going to see it very shortly as he makes his way on through the right-hander and upwards he goes towards what is turn number 11. He did improve in the middle sector, so he's found quite a bit of time there. Now in the final sector, it's the shortest sector of them all, as he makes his way on through Lodge Bend and in towards Deer Leap corner. He's going to be pushing as much as he can, willing the car on here towards the timeline. And what's it going to be for Murphy? Does he move up from P10? He crosses the timeline. It's going to be, well, it does not improve in the end at that final sector, being down on where he'd like to be, so therefore plenty more time to be found before he's able to get where he wants to be on this qualifying grid. But meanwhile we say hello to Renzo in the YouTube chat, who's saying attention Andrea Alberti, and well, I must admit I do believe that may be Italian. My Italian is not too great, but what I can tell you is that we can bring attention to Andrea Alberti, who right now currently parked in the pit lane, not out on circuit but leaving the pit lane now, and we're currently in P5. What are you thinking about? Giving himself some breathing room, perhaps checking the weather as well to see what's coming before he goes back out there, and also perhaps reevaluating how much fuel goes in the car and also the brake bias of the car. That's the one thing they are allowed to change. But he makes his way out there and looking to go onwards and higher as he roars his way up towards Cascades in the BMW 330e. But as he heads on down into the braking zone, and meanwhile current provisional pole sitter parked in the pit lanes, Andrea Romy, and will set the target time for everyone to beat of a 24.628, and will Romy absolutely nail it on early on by the best part of 2 tenths over Phil Garside. And well, here is Garside by comparison making his way out of what is the Knickerbrook corner and on towards what is Watertown corner, coming into left-hander, which we speak of as he comes through turn 9 and in towards Druids at 10, and onto the brakes he goes, and currently going purple in at sector 2, albeit we've got an even fast lap coming in from Lloyd Biddulph, who's just taken provisional pole on a 24.383, raising the bar even higher in the Hyundai i30M Fastback. But as Garside makes his way on down, well, we do look to what is an onboard with Garside as he takes us around for a flying lap of what is the Oulton Park Circuit. So he charges way in towards turn at number 1 and braking about 125 meters of corner apex, dropping the 4th gear as he clears the corner flat out now as he roars his way in towards Denton's to turn number 2. Flat out through the Ryan King and hard to the brakes nice and early, about 150 meters of corner apex, and getting nice and high on the apex curve through Cascades as he powers his way through the left-hander, building his way up to 5th gear, charges his way down Lakeside straight and in towards the island hairpin, and braking about 150 meters of corner apex all the way down to 1st gear. Goes a little bit deep there, but will swing the car around now, using the full steering lock as he powers the Honda, but recognising it was not going to improve in lap, and Garside immediately toast to the pits there, knowing that things have not worked out the way he wanted want them to, and well, he'll be getting himself set and ready to go once again, but he won't want to make that mistake twice around. But meanwhile, here's your provisional pole sitter, Lloyd Biddulph, now making his way on down towards what is turns at 5 and 6, coming on through his lops and in towards Knickerbrook corner he goes, and as he does so, right now looking to go even faster out there compared to his previous time, albeit I think this might be on always a warm-up lap, as we haven't got any sector times coming in, or at least sector times that are coming close to his previous best. But as he heads in towards Druids Bend, or I think he'll be feeling as though all is looking good so far, albeit can anybody respond to him? That will be the big question. As he heads in towards the right hander of turn number 11 of what is Lodge corner, we're going to be jumping on board with Lloyd Biddulph for a flying lap to carry on from where Phil Garside left us as he makes his way on towards the timeline. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, on board with your provisional pole sitter as he takes us into turn 1. Hard on the brakes here, dropping down from 6, dancing the car into the right, and you can see the rear of the car letting go. 4th gear as he powers his way in towards dead turns and flat out here, and well, as late as he can go onto the brakes and the cascades, lets the car go deep, tries to get the late apex, a little bit of understeer just creeping in there in 4th gear as he makes his way up towards the island hairpin. And as he does so, getting ready to go onto the brakes here, coming all the way down the gearbox in quick succession, all the way down to 1st gear, nice and tight to the apex early on, and immediately feeding that throttle in as he now powers his way up the hilltop straight, and as he makes his way down the back straight, heading towards his lops. Now keeping the car over to the left-hand side, looking for his brake marker, and it will be that 100-metre board. Down the gearbox he goes to 2nd gear, straight line between the 2 apexes, feathering the throttle as he brings the car over to the left and Knickerbrook corner to open up. Short shift to 3rd there in order to improve the traction he gets out the corner, and now making his way into the turn 8 kink here, straight lining over the rise in order to aim for the Water Tower corner, which is turn and line, and now through left-hander, position the car nicely over to left, brake nice and early, turn the car through 4th gear as he makes his way out to the right-hander. Car going a little bit deep there, that may cost him some slight time coming on through Druids, but now heading in towards Lodge and looking over to the left-hand side, braking at what will be the turning sign there, which is about 100 metres from one apex. 2nd gear as he clears the corner up to 3rd, and now charges his way onwards towards the end of the lap, where it has been a smooth lap from Biddulph, but what's it going to be as he heads to the timeline? Well, it is going to be, I do believe, an improved lap. It's a 23.941, the first 23 we have seen in this qualifying session, with what is 3 minutes and 40 seconds to go, and Lloyd Biddulph right now is in a world of his own, it would seem, because Andrea Alberti, who is out there, is looking to try and improve as much as he possibly can, but I do wonder whether Alberti will be able to find the time, whether anybody can right now, because Biddulph, and as we said earlier, the only driver to take qualifying pole positions this season, well, right now Alberti and Romy have got to find at least 6 if not 7 attempts in order to remove Biddulph from the top of that timing tower. But as they make the way on around, we do say hello there to Ryan Hay in the Facebook chat, and also to Ross Smith. Great to have you both tuning in, gentlemen. I hope you're doing well. Also, we say hello to Neil Craven in the Facebook chat, who says good evening to us here in the content booth, and all the drivers really looking forward to this one, and we're very glad to have you with us, Neil. And well, Renzo saying that Romy is on fire in reference to Andrea Romy. Will definitely be P3 at the moment, to be so close to Andrea Alberti, but I think right now as Phil Garside goes P2, all the drivers out there looking to improve right towards the end of this session, and as he makes his way across the timeline, Romy going on to another lap, and I think everyone trying to gather the toe off of one another here in order to try to get more time, but it's getting very crowded as they make their way out of Oulton Park corner and down into Denton. So this is not how close you want to be when you're going quite, oh my goodness, and going sideways there. I believe that is the car, if I'm not mistaken, that is the car of Nick Clemens just in front that's gone very sideways, going in towards Cascades. That's going to clear Romy. I think Romy will be grateful for that, but at the same time, that could have been near to fatal for this qualifying lap as he makes his way through turn number 4 and onwards. But as he charges his way up the hilltop straight here, where right now it's not improved at all in that first sector. In fact, I think he's had to back off due to the incident. So Romy's not going to have this lap to improve. We have one more lap after this. And meanwhile, Phil Garside currently parks in the pit lane. Well, there he's decided to call it a day. It's a 24.490. It is 5.5 attempts off a pole, but I think Garside feels like he's got everything he can out of the Honda, and now he's waiting to see if there's a response from anybody out there to push him off of the front row. Was Andrea Romy makes his way on through from him. We do look to Andrea Alberti. Both of these BMW drivers, the two stalwarts of the BMW manufacturers. He makes his way in towards the left hand here of Water Tower, and well, can Alberti find a way to improve? Well, so far not enough. I think he's having to tee himself up for one final lap, one final roll of the dice as he heads out of turn number 11 and onwards towards 12. But as he does so, in fact, heading down towards turn 11 right now, let's get our corner numbers right, going in to Lodge Bend. You can see back in the field up there, trying to give himself every bit of space he can before he goes on the attack. And I think this is going to be everything or nothing for Andrea Alberti as the sparks fly, as he dips into dear leap and over the right as he goes and roars his way onto what will be his final qualifying lap. Behind him a number of drivers as well, including the Hyundai i30 of Louis Hesketh as they make the way on through Old Hall Corner. And well, right now, can Alberti find a way to be able to put himself on pole? It's a long way away, 6/10, but if he can find it, he's going to go for it, and we're going to stay with Alberti all the way to the end here as he makes his way on down towards turn number 4 and into Island Hairpin. So he breaks his way on down here, coming towards the end of the first sector time. As you can see, just clipping the apex curve, the car very unsettled, and power oversteer there as he exits out. The rear wheel's not providing the traction. He's currently 2.5 tenths down on what is, I do believe, the pole time set by Lloyd Biddulph, unless I'm mistaken, and not improving on his own best sector there. So he's now going to have to make up even more time in the middle sector, and as he comes on through his ups and in towards Knickerbrook Corner. Meanwhile, Garside still P2. The checker flag coming out at 10 seconds on this qualifying session. Once Alberti makes his way over the rise, and in fact backing off there with some traffic in front, and with Alberti, that is going to be it. I don't think it's going to improve. In fact, well, I do apologise there with the lights on the rear of the car. That might have been in there. That might have been what was a bit of a glitch on our screen, but as he makes his way on down the back straight now, Alberti is still flying. In fact, he has improved personal best in the middle sector, but can he go fast as Andrea Alberti has moved to P2, 2 tenths of the pole time set by Biddulph. But meanwhile, Alberti crossing the line here as he comes on through. And what's it going to be? Is it going to be enough from Alberti? No, it's not. It's P3 at best. He sets a purple final sector. He's the fastest driver in sector 3, but with the difficulties of sector 1, it's not enough for Andrea Alberti. And Lloyd Biddulph right now is looking secure at the top, given the fact that most of the drivers are in the pit lane. The only drivers out there at the moment on their final laps are Joe Lane, who's currently P19, and also is Alessio Ganelli. And well, I do not think these guys are going to be able to improve enough in order to be able to dethrone Biddulph, but they are looking at improving, including Lane here in the Vauxhall Astra as he comes out of turn number 11 through 12 he goes. And what can he do in the number 40 as he crosses the timeline? Can he go a bit further? He can. He slashes the deficit to Dini in half, and now only 4 attempts off of Dini's time. Ganelli's in the pits already, and well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is qualifying complete, and this man is your 3-time pole sitter. It's a hat-trick of pole positions, and he can't stop accruing them. Nobody else is allowed to have them by looks of things. Lloyd Biddulph is your pole sitter on a 23.941, 2 tenths behind him. Andrea Alberti will share the front row with the Hyundai driver. It will be the battle of the Hyundai and the BMW once again into turn number 1, and then on row number 2, Andrea Alberti and Phil Garside will line up together, and the Honda driver having his best qualifying performance of the season. But we enter the warm-up session now, ladies and gentlemen. That will give our drivers time to get the right setup on the car here with 10 minutes available to them, although I do believe we might be seeing this warm-up session shortened to a degree once everyone's got their setups on the car, and we'll find out in due course. But still, what a qualifying session we have had, and we'll also keep in mind that Dario rFactor will be starting in what will be P9. I think he'll be quite happy with that starting position, in the fact that it is inside the top 10, and that's a huge achievement. And Mark Davenport on his debut taking a P10. Well, for Davenport, that's right in the middle of the field, and well, whilst that does sound like the obvious, at the same time as well, to put yourself right in the middle on your debut, that's a good performance, and given the caliber of the rivals that he's going to be facing here today. But all the drivers right now absolutely set and ready to go, but nobody leaving the pit lane, because they all know they need to get the setup on the car, and they need to get it right and keep an eye on what those weather conditions could be. But it does look as though the circuit has brightened up a little bit compared to qualifying, so therefore I think it might be a dry race 1 at least. We'll have to wait and see if that's how things stay in the longer term, but at least for what looks to be race number 1, it might be dry, and therefore it could put a bit of a different spin. We could be seeing more of a lean into what we saw at Brands Hatch, and well, I think it is going to be the battle of Biddulph versus Romy all the way from start to finish. But meanwhile, as Louis Hesketh makes his way on down and in towards what is here Cascades Corner. In fact, now that we look around a bit further down the circuit, in fact, it's looking quite dismal. I wonder whether our camera is quite deceptive. In fact, the wipers are on there. Well, I have to make my mark my words there, in the fact that I think we do have rain coming over the circuit right now. So what was looking bright for a brief moment, in fact, we do have rain out there, and well, this is only going to confound things in the warm-up session for our drivers as they make the way on around here. And I think right now many will be wondering, where exactly is the weather going today, for the simple reason if we've had a dry qualifying session, now we go to the wet in the race. Well, this is going to make the Oulton Park Circuit incredibly treacherous, particularly on the second half of the lap, where we do have what is a load of medium speed corners and even low speed corners where you've got traction zones, and also you've got some heavy loading of the tyres on a particular side of the car. Druids being the most notable one for the loading on the left hand side of the car and trying to get the power down on the exit of the corner. Well, it can be a handful even in the Hyundai i30N, being shown here by Louis Hesketh as he makes his way on through Matthew Williams. Meanwhile, starting P14, Hesketh starting P11. Great debut qualifying sessions of both of them, and Williams will know there's a bit more work to do when he goes racing to try and chase after a top 10, but qualifying inside the points positions. Remember, top 15 score points in this series, much like in the real life BTCC Championship. And when he makes his way in to the pit lane, decides to park up there, will get himself all set and just gauging where the track is currently at. Well, meanwhile, we look to Adam Delman, and as he gets ready to go there, currently in the pit lane in the Honda, obscured by the garage brick wall there. Indeed, many of drivers still in the pits, just waiting and seeing what they can do. Well, meanwhile, we look to Alan Axon in the Daniel Rowbottom Halford's Catalina Honda Civic Type R, and we'll start in at P8 today. He'll be looking forward to seeing what he can do from that starting position and seeing if he can make some progress. We have seen Axon and Garside both have some great performances inside the top 10 over the first 2 rounds in the battle of the Hondas, albeit it has been Garside who has, on paper, the faster of the 2 drivers. Axon normally has come alive a little bit more in the race compared to in qualifying, and indeed we saw plenty from Alan Axon at the Donington Park National Circuit last week in those changeable conditions. But we are only 7 minutes away from going to the grid for our first race of the day, and as he makes his way on down in towards turn at number 4, and we do say hello there to Hidden Snowball Jay in the Twitch chat. Hope you're doing well, Hidden Snowball. And well, as he makes his way on down the hilltop straight here, I think Axon will be feeling all set and ready to attack. But as he does so, well, meanwhile, a little bit truer for you with regards to this Oulton Park Circuit, and particularly the corner which Axon is about to pass, known as Knickerbrook. Now, you might be wondering, where exactly does the corner get its name from? I mean, it's quite suggestive in the fact, has it got something to do with a pair of knickers, perhaps? Or ladies' undergarments, if you want me to be a little bit more politically correct? Well, the answer is yes, in the fact that when, and this was many years ago, in fact I do believe the best part of 4 decades ago, when some renovation work was due to be done to essentially clear a tree which was towards the corner, not known as Knickerbrook previously, but the right hand corner. When the excavation teams came along in order to clear the trees, and indeed quite a bit of foliage away, well, it does seem as though a couple were found courting what was that corner underneath one of the trees there, for the simple reason that for all the disturbance that was caused by the excavation team getting ready to cut away the foliage and the trees, well, this couple decided to elope off into the distance, and with it a pair of knickers or ladies' undergarments was found by the trees, and that's what led to the naming of the corner as Knickerbrook Corner. It's a little bit trivia for you with regards to the corner name at turn number 7 here on this island circuit, or at least that is the running myth, I do believe, albeit whether it's true or not, that's yet to be decided. But what I can tell you as well, ladies and gentlemen, is with only 20 seconds left to go, we will be advancing to the grid at the 5-minute mark on this warm-up session, and that clock, we've only got 10 seconds left before we go to the grid. And well, with that in mind, our first race is right around the corner, and if you haven't got yourself some liquid refreshment or got yourself set and ready to tune into the racing, well, now's the time to very quickly do so, because when we do go green flag racing,
non-essential personnel leave the grid now.
There's not going to be any time for a pause, and it's not going to let up. But with that, as you just heard, ladies and gentlemen, all personnel have been told to leave the grid, and all the drivers will be putting the choice of tyres on their car, and we'll then be going to what is our warm-up lap, or parade lap, if you will, and then our drivers will be lights out and away they go. But they do have an extended time today. We have changed the server settings for the purposes of this round, because there were a few suggestions from our drivers that they needed more than 30 seconds when getting the car set to go on the grid, so it has been extended to 70 seconds. So we'll see a slight delay here. That's to give our drivers a bit more time to gauge the conditions in terms of whether there's rain or not, and what the weather radar is looking like before they go out there. And well, that may just lead to more and more tactical decisions. We do see some wipers on from our drivers' cars, and well, that's a suggestion. We still do have some rain falling a little bit. We can't see any rain on the camera right now, but still, I do believe we have got the rain just gradually trickling on down. And as all the drivers get themselves set into position on this grid, most of our drivers there, we're just waiting on 4 more drivers. I think Davenport, Hesketh, and well, 2 others already made the ones to the grid, so we're just waiting on Louis Hesketh, and we are good to go for the formation lap. Indeed, the time is set, all the drivers are in position on the grid, and with that, let's take you through your grid order for where's our first race of the day. So for race number 1 here at Oulton Park, it's Lloyd Biddulph who takes 3 poles in a row for Team Hyundai ahead of Andrea Alberti, with Andrea Alberti and Phil Garside on your second row of the grid. We then have on row number 3, it's Stefano Guidici in his best qualifying performance of the season ahead of Nick Clevin starting P6, and then Fraser Ostens and Alan Axon at line up P7 at P8. We're then going to have what is completing your top 10, the pairing of Dario rFactor and Mark Davenport, the Toyota try had a strong qualifying performance on his debut, with Louis Hesketh starting P11 ahead of Marco Garante, who starts P12 and concludes the 6th row. Row 7 goes to Mark Sykes in the Vauxhall ahead of Matthew Williams, a fellow Vauxhall driver, with Craig Murphy in the other Toyota starting P15 ahead of Lee Horn in the Vauxhall, who completes your 8th row. And then on row number 9 is going to be Adam Delman in the Honda ahead of Ian Deeney in the BMW, with Joe Lane and Alessio Ganelli, the 2 Vauxhalls, bringing up the rear, P19 and P20. So that's how all the drivers that we started on this grid. Whether they finish that way or not, we're going to have to wait and see. I suspect it won't be exactly that order come the finish, but as they all get set and ready to go, all the drivers right now absolutely itching to go racing, albeit the rain falling on this circuit right now, and well, everybody I think having to tenuously make the way on through. Lloyd Biddulph in particular will be looking to try and get as much temperature into his tyres as he possibly can before we do go at green flag racing, and well, for the simple reason that as he makes his way on and around and onwards towards what will be the run towards Water Tower Corner, he'll have in his mind the simple fact they will not want to make any errors here, and he'll want to have as much tyre temperature as humanly possible before he goes green flag racing, because if not, things could go very wrong into the opening couple of corners. He may not have the pace to be able to get the job done early, and that'll be what he'll want to do. He'll want to simply hold on at the front of the field and make that Hyundai as wide as possible, but with Andrea Romy right behind him and getting himself all set and ready to go right now as we ride aboard the 2nd place qualifying driver. Andrea Romy feeling confident, but I do wonder how much confidence is there right now with the rain. As you can see, the rain's more noticeable on this dashboard view as he makes his way in towards the final major corner. A few flashes of the cameras there in the spectator stands, but we've also got sunlight coming over the circuit, so it does look as though this could be some rain right now, but it could very quickly dry when we do go racing. Well, with all that and more to come, it's definitely going to make this race a very prickly race in terms of tyre choice and knowing when those grip levels are. But as our drivers all get themselves into position on the grid, we're just waiting for the last couple of drivers to line up, including Adam Dillman, Ian Deeney, Joe Lane and Alessio Ganelli. You can see them there making their way in the rear right now, but as they do, will then be lights and away we go as our last drivers put their way into position, and we can see Joe Lane and Alessio Ganelli pulling up now, and we look to the front of the field. I believe we are still waiting for a couple of drivers just to get into their grid. Slots will be registered in them, but they will very shortly. As the sun does go away, and indeed the lights are going on. And it's lights down, away we go for our first race here at Oulton Park. And look at Romy immediately getting the launch of the line. Biddulph struggling as they make their way towards turn number 1. And as they do, Romy takes the lead. Biddulph holds on versus Alberti as they roar their way up towards what will be turn number 2 and into 3. It's chaos behind us. There's contact and a car turns sideways and everyone careens into the scene of the incident, including Alan Axon, who steers clear. That's Phil Garside. It's gone wrong from the car, still rolling as they make their way downhill. It's a disaster for many, and that included in the incident is Nick Clemens, who comes on around right now, and it's still a further domino effect as they make their way into Cascade. Well, that's got to be the best part of half the field has been involved in that incident, and many a car struggling right now. But meanwhile, as we look from them back to your leaders, Lloyd Biddulph on the offensive as they make their way out the island hairpin. It's absolutely slippery down there, and Romy went very deep, and as a result, Lloyd Biddulph has taken the lead back at this race as they make the way in towards Hislop's corner. So as they make the way into the second half of the lap, where it was a change at the start, and it's changed back as they make the way in towards turn at number 7, and we're right now Romy and Alberti in pursuit, the 2 BMW drivers, but it does look as though here Biddulph has found some early pace as they roar the way up towards Druids Bend for the first time. But as they come through with the instant further down, that's meant there's been a big shake-up in the field. including Craig Murphy, who's moved up to P6 now as he makes his way on through it and still trying to get some tyre temperature in there, weaving from side to side as he makes his way in to Druid's corner, but goes a bit deep, manages to survive going too wide, but in turn it's going to mean that Lee Horne's got an opportunity here to try and look around the outside in the battle for P6, but Murphy then covers him off the outside. Horne ducks back to the inside here as they make the way onto the brakes. Horne's going all for it here and can't quite find it, as meanwhile Murphy goes deep but manages to hold on. After one lap of racing, it's Lloyd Biddulph who runs away with the lead by 1.5 seconds ahead of Andrea Alberti P2. Andrea Alberti P3 ahead of Stefano Guidici, who's up to P4, and the Honda driver coming on strong here as they roar their way in towards Denton for the second time asking. Alan Axon P5 ahead of Lee Horne P6. He's found his way past Craig Murphy on the start-finish line straight in towards what is Old Hall Corder. He's going to get him finished at Denton's in the fight for P6 as they come into left-hander, and Murphy has to watch on as they make the way on around, but as they do and onwards they go towards what is the Island Hairpin. It's then Fraser Austin's P8 ahead of Mark Sykes P9, and Matthew Williams completes your top 10 with best rest P11 being Adam at Delmont. In fact, Marco Grantish has taken the place. Lee Horne going very defensive there as they make the way on through the right-hander, and it does look as though Craig Murphy's got the pace to come back versus Horne, as long as he doesn't make the errors that we saw on the first lap. But right now Horne is proving to be a frustration, and Murphy's going to want to nip that in the bud as soon as possible as they make the way down in towards the braking zone here for the Hislop chicane once again. Well, Fraser Austin's now starting to get closer and closer to the back of Murphy, and I think the Ford Focus driver starting to adjust these conditions, and again the rain levels across the circuit are not even. It seems like there's more rain down towards what is the Island Hairpin and then what is the back section of the lap rather than the starting section. And I think with those changeable levels of rain right now, that standing water on the circuit, that may just be throwing a few drivers off, but I think everyone's now started to get into a rhythm and a rhyme with it as they make the way out to turn in number 10 in towards 11. And well, here comes Rostons looking up the inside of Murphy as they head on down, and Murphy given the space there, I think caught by surprise with Rostons absolutely roaring under braking in towards Lodge Corner and gets it done. And Fraser Rostons up to P7 here come the end of the second lap of racing as they head across the timeline and up towards turn 1 they go once again. Meanwhile, further down the order, we look to Louis Hesketh, who right now P13, and we're making some gradual progress after that nasty instant. Many a driver caught up, and including Hesketh in towards turns 2 and 3. And as he comes down in towards the right-hander of turn number 1, well, he's chasing after Adam Delmont, the Honda driver, who's just trying to steer clear with Nick Clemens and Phil Garside just behind him. Phil Garside, perhaps the biggest loser of that open lap instant, having fallen all the way down from what was P4 at the time to what is now P15 and trying to get back into the fight. As we do see Nick Clemens running a bit deep there, coming on through Cascades, and right now Garside seizing every opportunity he can to try and get close. We know he's got a lot of pace in the car, but right now he's just not able to demonstrate it the way he would like to. As he comes on through the hairpin from him, we do look back up the order, and in particular we look back to Mark Sykes, who right now chasing after Craig Murphy, and it does seem as though the Toyota Corolla driver under increasing pressure and more drivers behind. I think Murphy just not quite able to find the pace in the car right now, instead having to become a bit of a rolling roadblock here, trying to keep drivers behind him and to get that pace tuned in with the Toyota. I think the Vauxhalls of Sykes and Williams are going to have something to say about that as they head in towards turn number 10, and we jump on board here with Sykes as he heads onto the brakes. We're coming on through the right-hander, going in very early there into Druids, and I think trying to offset a little bit of the dirt here, and perhaps he invoked understeer from his rival in front. And as he heads in towards turn number 11, deciding to take a little bit of peek, but too far away to really consider a move. Some more of a feint, or trying to get into the head of his rival in front, trying to get him to look in his rearview mirrors more than looking ahead. But right now, as they make the way over the rise of turn number 12 through Deer Leap Corner, and Sykes' box will definitely leap in there as he powers his way in towards turn number 1. Well, not quite close enough there. Murphy able to pull away on the final couple of quarters, but now Sykes trying to close up once again as they make the way down into turn number 3. Albeit it's going to be a back and forth between these two. But meanwhile, we look from what is Sykes to the exterior camera here of our P4 driver Alan Axon, and as he makes his way out of Island Hairpin, goes a little bit deep there, trying to get a bit greedy with the throttle, and we can understand why. I think he feels like he's got the pace to change Romy and Alberti for what is P2 and take the fight to the BMWs, but the problem is he's just not close enough to be able to go for it. He's got to push a little bit harder, but his pace right now, he is the fastest driver out on circuit. That previous lap was a 32.830, whereas everybody else around him, bar Andrea Romy, was in the 33s, if not higher. Romy was the exception of 32.836, so Romy able to match Axon's pace, but Axon right now is flying as he makes his way up towards what will be at turn number 10, as he comes on through the right-hander, clipping the first apex curve there, putting the car almost up onto 2 wheels for a brief, and he won't want to keep doing that to unsettle the car as he makes his way up towards the Lodge Bend. The Simperese will hurt the suspension if he hits that apex curb too often and too front on. And as he makes his way in towards turn 11 right now, we'll have to wait and see how the lap times evolve here as he crosses the timeline. Indeed, our lead across the timeline as well. And as they do, new fastest lap of the race of 31.302. The circuit is drying up. Andrea Alberti now at 30.985, so going faster than Biddulph. Meanwhile, Axon at 32.049, so Axon having a weaker lap this time round, and perhaps just not quite happy now with the drying conditions of the circuit. You see the wipers no longer on. A dry line has already started to form, a very notable dry line. In fact, most of the circuit's dry, it would seem, on the first half of this lap currently. And as he makes his way on down towards Island Bend, well, meanwhile, we've got progress being made elsewhere as this is Matthew Williams battling with Marco Garanti as the Vauxhall driver chases after the Honda for P9, albeit Grunty getting the move done into Old Hall Corner, but Williams is coming back here as they make their way out of Cascade, looking close, and he heads in towards the braking zone. And as we ride on board, looking at this battle between the two drivers and heading on to the anchors, well, it's going to be Williams who decides to go a little bit deeper into the corner, trying to get the better launch out the hairpin compared to Grunty, who's taking a bit of an earlier line, but Williams there understeering slightly wide, and in doing so, that's going to cost him more time. You can see that gap on the live bottom right hand box on your screen, showing just how much the gap has opened up to 6 tenths, almost 7 tenths as a result of that error. And well, I think Williams now under a bit more pressure from Roston's behind as they make the way onwards towards Knickerbrook Corner. As they come out of the corner, and we look back to the exterior camera for Williams with Roston's in P11 and still giving chase as they head on through the two left-handers of turn 8 and 9. It's back and forth between a number of drivers, and Phil Garside at one of the many who right now is trying to go forth as he chases afterwards Adam Delmont in the battle of the two Hondas. Through the right-hander they go of Druids. Ben Garside all over the back of his rivals. They make the way on out, but Garside there looking into the outside, I think trying to set up a dummy to get Delmont to think he needs to go defensive, but here he goes onto the brakes. Garside up the inside, and with a classic move into Lodge Bend, he gets it done, and Phil Garside moves up to P13. Unlucky for some, but he'll be hoping that luck is now on his way, and it shines as he makes his way on towards turn at number 1 and looks to push up a bit further. But meanwhile, we've got a battle here between the two BMWs to P2. That's Andrea Alberti battling with Andrea Romy. Romy's the attacker, meanwhile Alberti's the defender, and as they make the way out of Island Hairpin, Romy was looking around the outside, and Alberti having to defend hard on the inside line, coming down to turn at number 4, as we do say hello there to Azza in the YouTube chat, and I do believe that might be Aaron Hampstead unless I'm mistaken. I'm sure Azza will correct me if I'm wrong there, but as they make the way on through turn at number 7 right now, well, Bertie and Romy, it's the battle of the two Andreas, and I can tell you right now that both drivers here not looking to give an inch, as meanwhile they are closing it up to where's Lloyd Biddulph. In fact, there was a brief intermission there with I think there might have been a glitch of our timing tower which showed that Biddulph had fallen behind Alberti, but that wasn't to be. But what is to be is the fact the lead gap has been slashed very rapidly, and in fact is now down to under a second here. And I wonder whether perhaps there was a gamble from Biddulph to go for wet tyres, but now the circuit is already drying up and we're only at just shy of the halfway point of this race. No more rain at the moment, whether that could mean that Biddulph is starting to struggle with overheating tyres. He sets a personal best this race at 29.446. Andrea Alberti goes even faster, a 28.612. My goodness, Andrea Alberti is absolutely flying out there as he makes his way down into Cascades Corner, and with the top 3 separated by only 2 seconds here, and I think it's Alberti who's the man on a mission to try and carve his way through to victory. But as they head on down towards West Island Hairpin this time, Alberti able to go be a lot braver under braking. It's very noticeable the differences in braking distances. Alberti, I think, braking about 10 to 15 metres later, and was they make the way on the rise here. We ride on board with the P2 driver looking for a potential move in towards the Hislop chicane, and we're taking a peek, couldn't quite find it, trying to get into the head of Wes Biddulph as they make the way on through Hislops, and on towards turn 7 they go, but through the right hander, and as they make the way on through, well, right now Andrea Alberti staying close but not quite able to find a way in, as we have had 3 retirements in this race. We can tell you Fraser Rostands, also what is Joe Lane and Alessio Ganelli have all had to retire. I believe Ganelli had to retire after the open lap incident, Lane for some damage a couple of laps later, and Fraser Rostands, we're not quite sure the reason, but we know that Adam Delmont's into the pits. I think it might be a gamble for wet tyres that hasn't worked out for Delmont, and could that have been the same for Rostands, and they decide to retire the car. But as Alberti continues to ride the rear of what is Biddulph, they make the way out to turns 11 and 12. It's all bumpy all over the shop here, and with the suspension and the drives are both taking a battering, I can tell you that. But as Alberti sets an even faster lap, and Joe Romy goes the fastest of everybody at 28.118. This circuit is coming alive, it's trying, and I think Lloyd Biddulph right now is struggling out there by comparison, as they make their way down into the Cascades. You can see he goes deep. This could be Alberti's opportunity. He takes the peak, but it's not enough an opportunity to get alongside it. A bit on the outside in the run down lakeside towards Island Hairpin, and I think Alberti wants that inside line. He knows where he needs to put himself, but I don't think Biddulph's going to make it easy as they carve through. Very close there as they make their way out the corner. Oh goodness, there's contact as they make their way on through. There's even further contact, and Biddulph is sent to the barrier, and meanwhile Andrea Romy, and what is that, Alberti fighting now for position. Andrea Romy all over the back of his rival, and I think that will have been the concertina effect, but once again it's gone very wrong in the battle between Andrea Alberti and what is Lloyd Biddulph, and this time Biddulph has come away with what is a drop to P5 as a result of that tap as they make their way out of what's the Island Hairpin, and as they do, well, right now the battle of the two BMWs at the front of the field could not be closer either, and we'll roaring on through in towards turn number 10 right now, and Romy here I think will see an opportunity to try and look for a move, particularly now knowing that Alberti's got some damage on the car, and Alan Axon and Stefano Guidici, P3 and P4, they're both on course for potentially their best result of the season so far in this race as they make the way on through. But as our race leaders make their way on to another lap with 8 minutes left to go, well, we will be stepping away from them very shortly. In fact, we're going to be taking a look a bit further down the order at Nick Clibbins here as he makes his way on through at West Water Tower corner, and the reason why he's the focus of our attention for a brief moment is in the fact he's battling with what is it, Matthew Williams just in front and Craig Murphy just a bit further up the road as they make their way on through, and we do show you the extended battle there for P9 with Craig Murphy holding on, but you can see the intervals between our drivers right now, and it is literally 1.5 seconds separating the quartet as they make the way out of what is turn number 11 in towards 12, and well, here comes Clibbins looking for a move. He's had a better run compared to Williams through Deer Leap, and as they head into turn 1, we're going a bit deep under braking. He's going to try and cut it around the outside, but Williams going defensive, a little bit of power oversteer there, but right now Clibbins absolutely going for broke as they power their way through denters on the inside to Cascades they go, and Nick Clibbins gets it stopped just in time. I don't think Williams is going to believe where on earth that's come from, but as they make the way up towards what is the Island Hairpin, Clibbins immediately going defensive, and meanwhile behind, as you can see there, a lock up from what was, I do believe, Williams. Garside now looking around the outside, he can't find it. Mates now cut back to the inside, and rFactor2 is closing up as well as they all power their way up through Hilltop, and Garside right now using Honda, using a hybrid, and looking to go up the inside under braking, and well, I think the 66 driver will find his mind and find his mark with that and move into P11 as he comes on through the chicane. A brilliant racing between what is the quintet of drivers. They make their way onto the back half of this lap, and as they do, well, meanwhile rFactor2 now trying to find a way, and as meanwhile Andrea Alberti sets a new fastest lap of the race, a 26.768, with Andrea Romy setting a 26.799. They're literally neck and neck in terms of relative pace, but as we do see the drivers here battling, it's inside the top 10. Well, here comes rFactor2 looking for a move on the inside of Matthew Williams down into the corner, a bit of a rub between the two of them, a lock up on the braking for Williams as well, and well, the two do not go hand in hand in terms of contact and then braking, but they survive it, and rFactor2 finds the move for P12 in the end as they make their way on to the next lap. 6 minutes left on the clock, and as they roar their way into the next braking zone, when we meanwhile look back to our race leaders here, the two BMWs that are still giving chase to one another. Alberti ahead of Romy, but still it does look as though here that Romy getting closer and closer, and as they roar and rip their way on through turns 5, 6 and 7, well, for Romy right now it's all going to be about just having one opportunity to make this move count. You can see he's riding all over the back of his fellow BMW driver, so this is equal machinery. It comes down to the drivers here and how they choose to deploy the hybrid and what brake bias they're running in order to get the car to rotate more and more, and also as they make their way out of turn number 10 at Druids, whether they're willing to gamble on where there's any damp patch of the circuit left. We can see that dry line, I suspect off the race tonight it will be slightly damp still as they come on through turn number 10, or turn number 11. Bit of power oversteer there for Romy, more sparks flying out of the back of the rear of Alberti's car as they head upwards towards turn number 1. Alberti just getting a bit better traction there, going on to the next lap. A new fastest lap of the race from what is Andrea Alberti, a 26.471, and immediately matched with a 26.470 from Romy. So these two equal on pace, but I think Romy has got the pace advantage, but he's got to find a way to use it to get ahead, and well, that's proven to be the challenge here as they make their way out of Cascades. As they do, meanwhile we look a bit further down the order to Matthew Williams still battling here with what is it, Marco Grante has found his way on past recently going on through what I believe was Druid's Corner, I'm hearing in my ear. So Williams now down to P13 with Hesketh. Louis Hesketh at the best part of which 1.6 seconds behind as they charge away onto this next lap as they come in towards the right hand of turn number 1. Well, the gap starting to open up for Grante versus Williams. I think Williams' pace might be starting to fall off the proverbial cliff, if you will, but as he heads into the next braking zone. Meanwhile, we look to Phil Garside a bit further up the road, and the Honda driver still keeping Derry rFactor behind him. But the key point being here for Garside is that he's trying to find a way past Craig Murphy. As meanwhile, we do show you on the timing tower the choice of tyres that our drivers had at the start of this race. If it does load, and well, we are seeing that practically all drivers here opting to go through for the soft or the medium. Nobody going for wet. So therefore, I would say that the soft tyre, which has a lower durability but faster natural pace, well, I think the softs may have fallen off for a good number of drivers, including Biddulph at the early stage of the race after a couple of strong laps, and that might be explaining why the mediums are going on through. But then again, Alberti and Romy are both on softs as well, so I think there's a bit more of a story there than meets the eye, and perhaps the softs just not engaging for Biddulph like they were for Alberti and Romy. That could be a question. But here we see Garside with the mediums and Murphy just in front, and then the softs of rFactor behind, giving him that pace. But keep in mind, those tyres are not going to last as long as they make the way up towards what is turn number 11. But as they do, rFactor looking for the move. Meanwhile, Garside very close on the brake. You can see literally getting close enough to reach out and touch the rear wing of his rival, but not to do so as they make the way out to 11. And will these three separated by only half a second as they head on to another lap? They'll have 2 more laps, perhaps 3 more laps of racing, depending on when our leaders go on to the next lap. But right now, this racing absolutely sensational between us. We ride on board with rFactor, looking for the move here, trying to get onto the inside into Denton's corner to try and put what is Garside offline as they break the way into Cascade. But as they do, Garside goes a little bit deep. rFactor can't cut back in time. He has to back the car off there through fear of contact. And as they make the way in towards Island Bend, where you can see right now Murphy just simply making that Toyota obstinately wide and making sure that the drivers behind him fight each other first rather than him. And that's the way to hold on to a top 10 finish for the Toyota drivers. They make the way out of Island Bend. But I think Garside will be looking for plenty more from the car before now and the end of this race, as rFactor once again looking for the move. I think both drivers using the hybrid there in order to try and outfox one another, but he neutralises the battle as they make the way into turn 6. rFactor goes a bit deep, the car sliding away from him, catches it just in time before he takes the trip to the grass. But it shows you how far and fast rFactor is pushing the car. And meanwhile, with Garside getting closer and closer to Murphy as they make the way into the braking zone here for what is Druid's Bend. Well, Garside's the closest being. Murphy goes a bit deep, and Garside's going to try and use this now to open a door as they make the way down towards Lodge Bend. But you can see just on the power, on the run out to Druid, he's not quite able to get fully alongside. He looks like he's lunging under braking there, but it's not enough as Murphy says, whatever you can do under braking, I can do it too. And as they make the way on round through Deer Leap Corner, it resets the battle between the trio back to how it was only 2 laps ago when we started watching this fight, as they make the way onto what I suspect is the penultimate lap of race in this first race of the day. But as they come out of the corner, meanwhile further behind in Dini P14, still chasing after what is now, I do believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, the number 1 car of Louis Hesketh, with Matthew Williams just in front, and Williams struggling in P12 right now. So Hesketh and also Dini trying to find a way on through, but will they be able to find an overtake here before all is said and done? They'll have 1 more lap after this. And well, right now Dini close, I think, itching for a move here versus Hesketh. Will Hesketh go defensive, or will he not? Well, Hesketh answers there by lunging very late under braking. In fact, it's a great move, or is it? No, he can't quite get it stopped in time. And now Dini's going to look for the run in coming out of where's the hairpin. Well, I think there might have been the best offense, the best defense, the good offense was the mindset of Hesketh. It wasn't to be, as the car was stopped in time, but it wasn't enough to seal the deal versus Williams, and Dini's found his way through as a result. But as our race leaders, I look at my content booth window, have gone on to their final lap of racing in race 1 of 3 here at Oulton Park. When we look from where's the battle between Dini versus Williams to a bit further up the road, in particular back to Garside versus what is Murphy as they made their way through Druids, and this time Garside is alongside. It's only a slender hook, but he's going to take it. Meanwhile, behind rFactor looking for the move here. He's going to try and go on the inside as Garside backs out to the outside here. Meanwhile, it's going to be Murphy who goes defensive as they make their way through the corner, and as they do, it's going to be almost 3 wide, albeit staggered, as they make the way onto 1 more lap. But rFactor's found his way past Garside. He's going to find his way past Murphy into turn 1, and he gets it done. It's a brilliant piece of manoeuvring there from what is rFactor. But meanwhile, we look back to our race leaders, ladies and gentlemen, as they're on their final lap. They're on the second half of it as well. Andrea Alberti still holds on ahead of Andrea Romy, and these two have literally been nip and tuck all the way from what is start to finish their battle over the last 10 minutes. And as they make the way out of Druids Bend, well, right now it looks as though it's going one way. And it is going the one way of Andrea Alberti as he heads in towards the final corner. Brakes screeching, tyres screeching as well. Andrea Alberti throwing everything at this. And as he heads the line, the checker flag waves. And Andrea Alberti will take your first win of the day at Oulton Park in a 1-2 for BMW ahead of Andrea Romy P2. And then it will be Alan Axon who comes on through to complete the podium in the Honda in the number 32 P3 there. And an absolutely solid drive for Alan Axon as he comes across the line. It will then be Stefano Guidici who is best performance of the season, P4 in the Honda, and then it'll be Lloyd Biddulph who comes on home P5 in a frustrating P5 after that contact between himself and Alberti. And Lee Horn takes P6 ahead of Mark Sykes P7 as he crosses the line there, and then it will be from the two Vauxhall drivers Nick Clewins P8 in the BMW ahead of Phil Garside, who in the end was able to find his way ahead of Murphy. Also rFactor, we haven't quite got a replay of that unfortunately, but I think there's been an altercation between a couple of the drivers, but Garside comes home P9 ahead of Craig Murphy, who takes a top 10 here today on what is his fourth race of the season, his first top 10 of the season. Indeed, P11 ahead of Dario rFactor at the line, it would seem, and then it will be Louis Hesketh P13. Matthew Williams comes on through P14, and then we will very shortly have Mark Davenport on his debut for the Toyota team taking P15, the final single point of all the finishing positions, and he'll be happy with a point in his debut ahead of Marco Grante, and Adam Delmont will be your last finisher, albeit Adam Delmont is going to be taking P17 as right now, as we can see here. A damaged car as well, in fact smoke coming out of the car. I think the car is severely damaged, and Fraser Rostans, Joe Lane and Alessio Ganelli will be your retirees from this race. So the positions confirmed, subject to any stewards' inquiries. Well, goodness me, what a race it has been, ladies and gentlemen. But let's take you through those finishing positions, and well, without further ado, as we do look to the pit stalls here, here is the race results. So as we can see, after 14 laps of racing, Andrea Alberti taking the win there ahead of Andrea Romy, with Alan Axon at P3 completing the podium. Stefano Guidici P4 ahead of Lloyd Biddulph, and will a season best performance for both Alan Axon and Stefano Guidici, but a frustrating first race of the day for Lloyd Biddulph by comparison, with Lee Horn and Mark Sykes in the Vauxhalls P6, P7, ahead of Nick Clewins P8, and then Phil Garside and Craig Murphy completing your top 10. After them, we can see from P11 down to P20, it was Ian Deeney Bester P11 ahead of Dario rFactor, with Louis Hesketh P13, Matthew Williams P14, and Mark Davenport P15 there, taking a single point in his first race of the season. Marco Grante P16 ahead of Adam Delmont, and well, Adam Delmont listed as 13 laps there, but I do believe he's made it on home for a 14th lap in the pit lane. And then your three retirees, Fraser Rostans, Joe Lane, and Alessio Galeni. It didn't go quite right for them, but I'm sure there's plenty more to come for them in our second race of the day. Speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, our second race will be coming up in due course. Indeed, it has been an absolutely fast and furious first race here at Oulton Park Island in Cheshire, England, and we'll be back in approximately 8 to 10 minutes time for the build up to race number 2. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss it. We'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to race number 2, and we've only got 2 minutes before we go racing it once again here at the Oulton Park Circuit in Cheshire of England. And goodness me, race number 1, without a doubt, saw a little bit of everything. We had a phenomenal pole lap set by Lloyd Biddulph. We had brilliant batting up and down the field. We also had drama, as was set by the rain arriving on the scene, and then subsequently our drivers having to deal with the wet conditions on slick tyres, and there was the contact between Andrea Alberti and Lloyd Biddulph. But it had it all the race, no doubt about it. And well, whilst this man will be looking for redemption in our second race of the day, there was also plenty to report on further down the order between our drivers, including what's some brilliant battling between the likes of Craig Murphy and Phil Garside, to name 2, and Craig Murphy in the end doing an absolutely stellar job to make that Toyota Corolla GR absolutely wide and hold on for a top 10 finish. And we also got to see his first point of the season on his debut for Mark Davenport, also in the Toyota Corolla GR. But these Toyotas may not seem to be on the pace compared to some of their rivals, but their drivers are definitely looking to get every single penny of pace out the car and doing exactly that. But the big question is, of course, what can we expect in race number 2? Well, I think the answer to that is anything, given the way the weather has decided to beset us over the course of the evening so far. And well, so many of you enjoyed it there in the Facebook chat in particular, particularly Ryan Hay and Ross Smith, loving the battling and wanting to be on the grid and saying they should be sat in their camping chairs. I think in reference to camping out by trackside. And well, I can definitely relate to that feeling, gentlemen, being trackside, enjoying the race, no doubt about that. Glad to see you guys having a good time. And well, I think our drivers are having a good time as well, because all 20 are getting ready to be back on the grid, and indeed will be advancing the session from the warm-up phase it's currently in to going to the grid in just under what is 10 seconds time. And with race number 2 around the corner, could we see a repeat win for what is Andrea Alberti as he parks up in the pit lane, or could we see a new driver on the top step for our second race of the day? All that and more is about to be found out. It's time for race number 2.
Attention grid, will all non-essential personnel leave the grid now.
So as our drivers are in their garages right now, they'll have the best part of 70 seconds to choose to put the right tyres on the car for the conditions out there and make any last tweaks to the fuel loads on the cars. And as we do see Matthew Williams parking up on the grid there, can't quite discern whether the wipers are on at the moment or not. As I look out my commentary booth window with regards to the weather, I don't see rain falling at the moment, albeit it is very cloudy. But as all our drivers put themselves in position on the grid, I don't see wipers waving there either on our TV cameras. And well, I get the feeling it might be a drier race, this one, at least to begin with. But then again, it may begin dry, but then it may turn to the wet. And if all drivers decide to start this race on slicks, well, it's going to be a matter of survival just as much as it will be pace. But the majority of drivers in position on the grid already. We're just waiting for a couple more to take up their slots. And well, as they get themselves set and ready to go, well, it's going to be an interesting race, no doubt about it. And our pole sitter takes his spot on the grid. And well, as he does so, well, he'll be pulling away very shortly for the formation lap. All 20 cars ready, set and ready to get underway, and we are only counting down the clock there before they do pull away for this formation. Well, here they go then, and as we do have Andrea Alberti pull away, albeit taking his time with it and everyone eager behind to get going, let's take you through that grid order for race number 2. So they line up as they finish from race number 1, and it's Andrea Alberti and Andrea Romy, the 2 BMW drivers, who line up on the front row. Behind them, the 2 Hondas of Alan Axon and Stefano Guidici. We then have on row number 3 what will be the pairing of Lloyd Biddulph in the Hyundai. Watch out for him, he's going to be roaring through the field for redemption ahead of Lee Horn in the Vauxhall. And then row 4 goes to the Vauxhall Mark Sykes and the BMW of Nick Clibbins. On row number 5 will be the pairing of what is Phil Garside in the Honda and Craig Murphy in the Toyota to hold on to that top 10 from the previous race and carrying it forward. And Ian Deeney starts P11 ahead of Dario rFactor2 in the Hyundai, who came on very strong as well. And then have on row number 7 Louis Hesketh in the Hyundai ahead of the Vauxhall driver Matthew Williams, with Mark Davenport starting P15 ahead of Marco Garante. And then we have on what is our penultimate row of the grid, starting P17 Adam Delman in the Honda and Fraser Rostons in the Ford after a tumultuous end to his race in race number 1. And Joe Lane and Alessio Ganelli, both in the Vauxhalls, will be starting at P19 at P20 to complete your starting grid. Well, as our drivers make the way on around, we do look from the grid then to our drivers a bit further down at the order here. We're looking at Mark Davenport as he just gradually brings his way on around the circuit right now, getting himself all set and ready to go. And well, as he does so, I think the big question will be for Mark is, can he find a bit further up the order, or will he end up having to hold on for P15 and hold on to it for dear life? Well, given how things played out in the opening couple quarters of race number 1, if there's another major incident or cacophony of cars going sideways through Denton's into Cascade, could be a prime opportunity for a driver further down the order to make some major progress early on. But we'll have to wait and see as our drivers continue the way on around, and as they do so. We look to the tyres on our drivers' cars right now, and we can see the majority of our field opted to go for the soft compound in this race. A few medium runners out there, however, Murphy being the lead medium runner started P10, Craig Murphy in the Toyota. We also see their mediums at 4 ways at Williams, and also Davenport, and also Verlaine and Cadelli. They're invested, I think, are trying to come through the field late on in the race, but meanwhile softs for the majority of our drivers, including our pole sitter of Andrea Alberti, and as he lines up in his position on the grid, quite far back from his starting slot, mind you, and Andrea Alberti doing the same. All our drivers almost set now, and well, we are just waiting for the last couple to get into position as they all start to queue up behind one another. And of course, when you are the pole sitters or the drivers at the front of the field, you have to wait for an eternity, it feels like, but then suddenly that eternity comes to an end, and well, now the grid falls silent as very shortly the lights will be going on. Well, the lights are going on. And it's lights out, and away we go for our second race of the day. Here's Andrea Alberti, gets a slow start, and Jeremy looks around the outside, but here comes Alan Axon as well. Axon trying to look for the move in the Honda on, and what is our pole sitter? Bit of contact between the turbos. Meanwhile, the bollards goes wide, as that is Lloyd Biddulph, who's had a roaring start, already up to P4 on the inside of Wes Axon in towards Denton's corner, and Biddulph up to P3 before we know it. And as they all make the way on through the Cascades corner right now, the whole field safely on through this time. Some battles further back. Craig Murphy side by side here with Ian Deeney. Deeney trying to go on the offensive. Behind him is Matthew Williams, who's trying to make it a 2-for-1 special. As they go onto the brakes here, and we're now Constantine, I think, hard on the brakes for the first time. A bit of rubbing there between what is Murphy and Williams. They both survive for now, but Williams is being able to push Murphy wide, and the two of them come together, and it's Williams to the barriers there, and he's gone to the tyre barrier for Williams, and his race comes to an abrupt end in a very harmful fashion, as meanwhile all the rest of the field makes his way down to the braking zone here for Hislop's, and Murphy battling with Granty around the outside. Hislop's can't find his way through, and right now Murphy getting his elbows out, and so is Davenport trying to battle his way past where's Adam Delmont, who's moved up into P15. But as they come on through and over the rise, meanwhile Lloyd Biddulph on the offensive here in P3, looking to try and go for the move on Alberti after that slow start versus Romy, and Romy's going to try and break away as they roar their way up towards what is turn number 11. And will, as Biddulph looking on the inside here, no way through at the moment, definitely trying to throw a move early, trying to get into Alberti's head and say to him, remember me, the driver you made contact with in race number 1. I think for these two it's a bit of rivalry, they've come into contact again, and well, goodness me, I think there might be a bit of red seen between these two drivers right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if they both get told to calm it down after this race, as there was contact they're going onto through dear leap, and well, Alberti's race has gone to the pit lane, and with that, Biddulph's up to P2, but I think at the end of the day as well, looking back at it, I'll wonder whether it needed to go that way. But after one lap of racing, it is Andrea Romy ahead of Lloyd Biddulph P2, followed by Alan Axon P3, Stefano Guidici P4, the two Honda drivers staying in the hunt for the win, ahead of Lee Horn P5, Phil Garside P6, then Nick Clemens P7, Mark Sykes P8, Darren Rafferty P9, and Ian Deeney completing the top 10 with Louis Hesketh P11, and trying to hold on here with what is Craig Murphy a bit further behind and trying to chase down Ian Deeney as a result. But onto the brakes, he gets ready to go, looking up the inside here into Hislop's corner, and as they do, well, no way for it. You can see that Deeney on the wider line, just simply carrying the speed as he needs around, and as they make the way on through turn number 7, coming out to the right-hand of Knickerbrook corner. Well, up the rise they go in towards Wolds Tower shortly, and well, we do have the top 10 of the field starting to break away from the rest of the field, but meanwhile, speaking of the rest of the field, they don't deserve to be ignored. They deserve their time in the spotlight like everybody else, and Adam Delmont right now with Marco Grenta, the Honda in front of him. The two Honda drivers here getting very close to Burstall and Craig Murphy. Well, he made himself incredibly wide on lap number 1, and now Adam Delmont's going to try and make sure that it's going to be Grant who stays very narrow on lap number 2 as they make their way down in towards Lodge Bend. Side by side they go under brake in, a bit of a rub between the two drivers as they make their way onwards towards what is turn at number 1. No change between them as they head towards the braking zone, and Delmont there, I think, trying to get the message through to Grant, I'm coming for that place whether you like it or not. And meanwhile behind, Fraser Roston's looking for an opportunity here to go on the offensive as we ride on board with the Ford Focus driver. as he makes his way down into the braking zone here for turn number 3. Going a little bit deep there under braking initially, but does collect the car back together. Very nice late apex, gets a perfect launch off the corner, but it does seem as though this Ford just not comfortable in the run through the mid-gears at the moment as they make the way out the braking zone. Meanwhile, Delman looking on the inside of Granty in towards Island Hairpin, and as they do, can Rostons find a way to get involved, as the two drivers rub up against one another, and will Rostons in the end does get on the inside here, but as they power the one down, it's going to be side by side over Hilltop and in towards Hislop chicane. Onto the brakes they get ready to go, and as they do, Will Rostons does get the move done there, and well, elbows out racing, no doubt about it here at Oulton Park, and these guys keeping it relatively clean so far as they make the way on through it. Nickelbrook Corner, and the fight for P11 rages on, but as they make the way on at the rise, meanwhile, we do see Delman battling with Craig Murphy and try and look around the outside here as they come from the inside of Watertown. That was very close to the barrier for Adam Delman. I don't think he's going to be too impressed with Murphy almost sending him to the wall, but at the same time I think Murphy would argue it's not too wide for Watertown. It's too wide here, but that's exactly what Murphy's trying to do. He's just trying to make that Toyota nice and wide. Delman meanwhile trying to throw everything at this as he looks at a feint from the outside to the inside into Lodge, but no way through. And well, I'm not quite sure what they've had whispered in their ear after race number 1, but if it was, can we up the tempo please? Well, they've definitely heard that as they make the way into the next lap. As they come in towards turn 1, meanwhile we look from them back to the leaders here as they come through out the left hand of turn number 3, and well, Ryan Hay there in the Facebook chat filling in for Ross Smith with regards to what happened between Lloyd Biddulph and Andrea Alberti, and succinctly put there by Ryan Hay that the Hyundai and the BMW came together again, and the BMW ended in the pit lane. It's led to Alberti having a penalty, and in fact has had to retire from the race, as that penalty would be essentially a drive-through penalty that put him further down the order and essentially ruled him out of finishing anywhere but outside of the top 15. Once the drives coming through, it will mean while behind we see Alan Axon and Stefano Guidici starting to get closer and closer as they make the way in towards turn number 7, as they do. Guidici all over the back of Axon here, and well, Guidici really coming alive in this race. I mean, a great race one as well, and right now really up in the tempo as they make the way into what is the mid portion of this second race of the day. And Guidici there, I think, trying to use the soft compound nicely. Both drivers on the soft, it should be pointed out, but I think Stefano Guidici feeling as though there's more pace to be had here in the early stage of the race rather than later stages. But meanwhile, Lee Horn just behind, looking up the inside there of Phil Garside for P5, and the 40 driver in the box will making it count, but Garside's trying to come back here as they make the way over the rise of what is Dear Leap and in towards turn number 1. As they do, here comes Garside looking for the run in towards Old Hall Corner. It's going to be battle under the brakes, and as they come on through, well, Garside does get it done. Clibbin's there behind as well as we ride on board with the P7 driver in what is this brilliant four-way fight. And well, as you can see there in the bottom right corner of your screen, the battle box which shows the 4 drivers involved in this, with Garside and Horn in the foreground, if you will, leading the battle for P5, with Clemens just behind and Dario rFactor and the Hyundai trying to hold on. But as they make the way in towards Island Hairpin, you can see lockups there from a Garside. The brakes locking up, being overheated, a bit of contact there between Horn and what was Clemens. Clemens giving Horn a bit of a tap on the rear end, saying, don't forget about me. And as they make the way over Hilltop and down towards the braking zone for turn number 5, going into Hislop chicane. Well, right now, Horn not able to look for a move, and I think Clemens itching for an opportunity to try and go battling instead as they head in towards turn number 7. Now, do remember, come the end of this race, wherever our drivers finish, we will be starting to look at a reverse grid, and the draw is between P6 and P12, so if our drivers will have that in mind, they'll want to finish inside the top 12 as a minimum, but ideally, they'll want to finish closer towards P6 or in P6 if they can, to guarantee that they'll be on that reverse grid for the final race. So as our drivers make the way out of that Druids corner, that's always something when our drivers, if they're not quite able to hunt down the top 5 finish, they'll be thinking about how best to maximise the reverse grid if they can. But as we do look from this battle, excuse me, for 5th place, well, meanwhile we do look back to Stefano Guidici versus Phil Garside as they head in towards turn number 1 once more. Andrea Romy sets the fastest lap of the race at 25.176, 4 tenths faster than Lloyd Biddulph on that previous lap. And as they make the way down towards turns 2 and 3, right now Guidici staying close, but he can't find a way past Axon at this time, as meanwhile Clibbins has where's Dario rFactor right behind him, and the Hyundai driver now starting to put some more pressure on. I think he's starting to feel some confidence, but meanwhile we must come back to Guidici and what is Garside, as I think there was an error from Garside, but Guidici almost does the same. I'm hearing in my ear from one of the marshals track side that it was Garside who went wide coming out of Cascades Corner, and well, Guidici almost getting it wrong as he made his way through Island Bend, and as they make the way down from Hilltop now, well, Guidici has moved up into P3, and can he hold on for his first podium of the season, as meanwhile Clemens down the inside of Horn, run into Hislop's corner and gets it. Oh my good lord, and Andrea Alberti hitting what's the tyre barrier there for what was the second part of Hislop's, and as he does so, well, that car is going to be towed to the pits. The front suspension has gone, and Andrea Alberti's race has ended in a similar fashion to how Fraser Austin's race ended in the first race of the day. And well, that is a shame for the Hyundai driver, who was absolutely showing scintillating pace in this second race, and he'll be absolutely gutted with that. But there's still one more race to go, but he'll know he's got to do it the hard way by essentially starting all the way down in what will be a confirmed P18 start at the end of this race. So therefore, keep your eyes out for him in race number 3. But coming back to the present, and Fraser Austin's here making no waste of the time like it's the present, as he makes his way in towards turn at number 11 for the simple reason right now he's looking for an opportunity to hunt down Adam Delmont, and well, Delmont 2.1 seconds away. Lap for Delmont coming in at what was a 26.392. Meanwhile for Austin's a 26.735, so he's got a bit more pace to find there if he wants to hunt down Delmont. But right now, hold on to the final spot of the top 10. That's not a bad place to be. But as he makes his way on through into Cascades Corner, meanwhile we look back to Garside and Guidici, the two Honda drivers here enjoying their own little unique fight with what is Nick Clivens closing gradually as they make the way out of West turn number 4 and in towards 5, and down they come from the hilltop here. And now the question will be, can Garside find a way past Guidici? I can imagine that Stefano will be looking to do everything he can to hold on to that P3, because he's been chasing the podium all season. It's not come as of yet, and right now Garside will be looking to add another podium to his collection. But as they make the way up the rise, well, behind them Clivens is showing fantastic pace in the BMW 3 Series, and I would wonder whether Garside feels like he's got to get this move done sooner rather than later, through the fear that Clivens will be with them within the next 2 to 3 laps. And if so, that will add a whole new dimension to this race. As you can see, Clivens is running away from Horn with Ian Deeney into P7 as well. And well, Deeney has been a silent ascender of the field with 10 minutes to go, having started just outside the top 10 and right now into P7 and looking for more as this race takes a turn into its second half. But meanwhile, looking further down the order, we look to, oh my goodness, and that's Mark Davenport, who's had a bit of a spin at Druids Bend. Now, whether that was aided or not, I can't quite tell you, but what we can tell you is that the Toyota driver's fallen down from what was P12 to P14, still inside the points-paying positions, but it's gone very, very wrong for Davenport. Unfortunately, we can't get a replay of that available due to some technical limitations, but as he makes his way up to speed here, looks like he's carrying on. So whatever's happened, and in terms of the shunt he's had with the tyre barrier, if there was contact, it's not enough to make him want to bring the car into the pits and put repair work in the car. Instead, he's going to try and soldier on it to at the very end. And meanwhile, Alessio Ganelli, P15, the man home started from the very back of the order, P20, where he's got Joe Lane 2.5 seconds behind, and we're hoping to try and bring home the final points paying position on this finished order. Out of the 16 drivers, it's the top 15 who will get the points. But meanwhile, as we look from Alessio Ganelli back up to the battle for what is P4 here between Nick Clivens and Phil Garside, are really P3 through to P5 with Guidici also in the mix. We can see there Garside not really making any further progress or ingress towards his rival, and Clivens now sitting at what is a rather worrying, if you're a Phil Garside fan, 7/10 of a second behind that BMW is encroaching. It seems to be an inevitability, and once they head onto the brakes, a bit of a lock up there for Guidici in to with Old Hall Court, well not Old Hall Corner, Lodge Bend I should say, getting my two right-handers mixed up, and as they make the way over the rise of Deer Leap, right now all 3 drivers separated equidistant, and on to another lap they go. And well, I do wonder whether at this point now a bit more time management is going to need to come in, given the fact that most of these drivers, I do believe all 3 of these drivers started on the softs. In fact, I think Clivens started on the medium time. Hopefully we can get the visibility of that very shortly. But as they make their way through Cascades right now, Clivens will feel as though it's his time to shine. Perhaps he can hunt down what is his first podium of the season, given that Garside is now in attacking distance and Guidici is not too much further forward. And in fact, we can show you the data of what is the tyre choice of our drivers. In fact, no, all 3 of these drivers are on the soft tyres, and your leading medium driver is Murphy. That's Greg Murphy down in P11, who is trying to find a way to go hunting after Fraser Rostons. As they head in towards Hislop's here, they stay as they are for the time being, and from them we do look back to Ian Deeney, who's still chasing after Lee Horton in the battle of the BMW versus the Vauxhall Astra. And well, as they made the way out to the corner, the front tyres of the front wheel drive machine, such as the Vauxhall and also the Hondas, very accurately put there by Ryan Hay and Ross Smith in the Facebook chat, saying that now it's the BMWs who started for the opportunity, given the fact they do more of they distribute more of the work between the rear tyres and the front tyres. The front tyres are done for the steering, the rear tyres for the power deployment. Meanwhile, front engine, front wheel drive, it's all about those front tyres for everything for the most part, and that's why we're seeing these BMWs really come alive now as they make their way more and more into the second half of this race. But as the sparks fly, they're coming down into the dip and over the rise of Deer Leap. Right now, Dini closing on horn little by little, and on that previous lap taking a 10th out horn, but 9, there's still more to do. But looking from these drivers towards the front of the field, Andrea Alberti right now in a comfortable lead of almost 5 seconds in the number 12 BMW, ahead of Lloyd Biddulph as he makes his way out of the island hairpin. And here's the Hyundai driver right now looking to bring it on home in P2, and Stefano Guidici, then your final potential podium finisher, albeit now as we see their drift coming out of the island hairpin. Well, that's Clemens getting very adventurous with the throttle as we ride on board with your 5th place driver, and now he's feeling the confidence coming on through, but he's got to be careful not to push his luck here. Those rear tyres, they have all that power deployment. The front tyres will be feeling very fresh by comparison compared to his rolls in front, but you'll know if he gets greedy with the throttle, just a major spin. Oh goodness me, and almost losing the car there as he drops the car over the apex curve, coming up through Knickerbrook corner, and with that, it's a perfect example where he's pushing hard, but perhaps pushing himself too much, and he knows that he's not got much time. There's 6 minutes to go, but he knows he's also got to take his time with this battle for the simple reason one error and all the progress he's made could be suddenly undone. He heads in towards turn number 11. Right now, I think it's going to be the question of whether Garside is going to be willing to even give Clemens the opportunity to get alongside. We know that Garside can be just as valiant a defender as he can be a ferocious attacker as they make their way onto another lap. And will fair racing between Garside and his rivals in the past at Donington and also Brantage. And we definitely expect plenty more of the same here as Clemens, you can see every corner fighting to get back on that throttle sooner and sooner. And the oversteer that comes with it is a sign of just how much effort he's putting in to try and get close and try to pick off the 2 Hondas in front of him. But right now his rival's just finding a way to stay just enough ahead to not worry about the threat of a lunge under braking. And as they make their way on through the island hairpin, no change once again. And meanwhile we do look back to Ian Dini, who falling slightly away from Lee Horn on the previous lap. The gap now open to almost what is 8/10 as they power their way over Hilltop and down in towards Hislops they go. And perhaps Dini just trying to cool the car down slightly before going on the offensive once more. Albeit he does need to keep the pressure on Hornet, given the fact that the front tyres of the Vauxhall Astra will be hurting. And if he gives him any respite, then it's going to give Horn the opportunity to try and find a little bit of a consolidated pace as they head up towards what is the Druids Bend, going via Water Tower. Meanwhile, we do look back to Joe Lane, who is closing on Alessio Ganelli for P15, as Sun seems to be coming out over the first half of the circuit, or at least to run into Cascades. And with that, that's going to warm up the circuit slightly and only put more pain on the front engine, front wheel drive runners, in the fact the warmer the circuit temperature, the higher the tyre degradation rate typically, as we see Ganelli go wide out the island hairpin, and Lane's going to have an opportunity here to try and get a bit closer as Ganelli puts the car in the middle of the road. Lane's going to be made to look around the outside, and this is going to make it tough for Lane. He's going to have to need to try and hook it around and get to the inside of 6. Well, here they go side by side, and in the end, Lane with a slight lock up there on the outside, not quite able to make the move happen, and made to stay in P16 as Ganelli made his car nice and wide and with a classic textbook defense into the chicane. But meanwhile, we look back to Garside here, and just in time as the battle for P3 unfolds. Clemens looks around the outside of 1. Can he get both of them? When it's going to be 3 wide on corner exit, and you can see that Stefano Guidici trying to put the car in the middle of the road. Clemens takes the grass, and here comes Garside. Back he comes, a door rubbing aplenty, and we said Garside wasn't going to back out of this, and as they get boxed in into the braking zone behind Guidici, Garside tried to force Clemens to be boxed in behind the fellow Honda driver, and in the end Garside holds on for P4, and right now having to use one of his rivals just as much as his defensive nuance in order to hold on to that 4th place. But as they make the way onwards towards Druids Bend, that's only going to galvanise Clemens even more and make him want the place further, as right now Garside definitely on the back foot here, and Guidici's allowed to pull a whole second off of the pair of them as they make the way up towards Lodge Corner. And here comes Clemens looking like Garside squeezed into the apex, a small tap between them, and nothing changes. They make the way up the hill, other than the fact that I can imagine right now Clemens is finding it harder and harder not to see a little shade of red as they make the way up towards turn number 1 in with some absolutely brilliant racing here. This is what touring cars all about as they make their way out of turn 1 and roaring on through. You can just see how worn the tyres of Garside are as he went slightly wide there going on through Old Hall Corner, and the front tyres haven't got life left. A bit of understeer creeps in going through Cascades. Clemens gets close, but not at the right time in order to look to pounce on the run down Lakeside and up towards Island Bend. looking to the inside there, thinks about it, continues to figure out as the car twitches, and Clemens right now eager as he gets it on the inside, and they power their way out the corner, but a bit of power oversteer. It's going to slow the momentum of the BMW as they make their way on Hilltop, and meanwhile Guiducci is pulling now to a whole second away still as they make their way in towards Hislop chicane. As they go on through and to the right and then the left-hander. Well, Clemens right now having to regroup, having to get ready to attack once again, knowing that he's got his rival, but can he find a way to get one step ahead and make it that way? As meanwhile Lee Horn runs wide, coming out of Knickerbrook corner, and Ian Deeney is right back with him as they power their way onwards towards Druids Bend, and this battle will keep our eye on just as much as well as the Vauxhall driver Horn tries to hold on for a little bit longer for what will be 2 more laps come the end of this one. But meanwhile it's going to be Clemens who continues to try and send dummies, tries to psych out his rival of Garside as they make the way through Old Hall, but as they can't do so, in fact coming through Lodge and now towards Old Hall very shortly they go. Well, they stay as they were going on to the penultimate lap, and as they draw their way on towards the timeline. Meanwhile further down the order, well, I can tell you that Deeney right now looking to cut back here versus Horn in the battle for P6, and he gets a nice cutback. Is it enough momentum though as they make the way towards Denton's? It looks to be for Deeney. It's not enough in the end as they head towards Cascades, and Deeney right now just trying to size his rival up and looking left, right and centre in order to try and pounce. But as they head up towards the Island hairpin, going from them to a bit further down the order, we've also got a battle between Alan Axon in the Honda and what is Craig Murphy in the Toyota Corolla as they come out of turn number 1 and in towards turns 2 and 3, and it looks so here Murphy right now looking vulnerable, but at the same time Axon not close enough to try and force the move at this time around. And we do know that Murphy will make that Toyota incredibly wide. He's done it all day in this race, and credit to the man. If he hasn't got the pace to stay clear, he'll make sure to fight fairly in order to stay clear, albeit a bit of nip and tuck in the opening couple of laps, but to be fair I think he'll argue that's the racer's spirit, and I think his rivals around him will acknowledge that as they make the way on through it over Hilltop. But as they do, meanwhile we do look back to the battle between Clemens and Garside as they head on through, and well, meanwhile your race leader comes on through. He does, I believe, take the checker flag there literally what is a second after the race ended, ladies and gentlemen. So Andrea Alberti in a last minute will take the win ahead of Lloyd Biddulph by 10 seconds as Biddulph cross line P2. Stefano Guiducci will finish P3. Phil Garside in the end finishes P4, and I think Clemens will feel as though he's been spoiled of an extra lap to go racing, and Lee Horn takes P6 ahead of Ian Deeney, ahead of what was then Mark Sykes P8, and then it'll be Adam Delton P9. Fraser Ostens comes on through to take P10, and then from them it will be Craig Murphy in the end who takes P11 ahead of Alan Axon, albeit will it be that way as they come to line? Yes it will be as they cross the timeline. And coming on through, that'll be how they finish to complete with your potential reverse grid positions through to P12. We'll then have Mark Davenport coming on through to add another 3 points to his name as he takes P13, and it'll be a sizable gap of the best part of which 21 seconds to your P14 finisher of Louis Hesketh, who we see here making his way on down the run towards what is Lodge Bend. And in the Hyundai, it's been a challenging second race of the day, but Hesketh keeping his spirit and his head held high and pushing onwards towards the final race of the day with a 3-second advantage over Joe Lane. Well, Hesketh takes P14, and then it will be Joe Lane who is your final points finisher. P15 there in the box in the number 40, and then Alessio Ganelli missing out on the points but taking P16 and bringing it to the finish line. Well, congratulations to all the drivers, and in particular, a huge congratulations to your race winner, back to winning ways after taking a win at what was at Donington Park National. Andrea Alberti, the BMW driver, in fact, didn't pick up a win at Donington Park National. Let's correct that, and indeed picked up 2 wins at Brands Hatch. But the BMW driver finally found his way back to the top step, and could this be a sign of what's to come in our final race of the day? Well, Lloyd Biddulph with the P2 will be happy with his recovery, and Stefano Guiducci will be very pleased to take his first podium of the season ahead of Phil Garside. And Nick Clemens, I think, will be a little bit annoyed he couldn't find a way to make it a P4, but will take that P5. But as all the drivers make the way in to the pit lane, what a brilliant second race of the day. And well, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. As the results come up on screen, ladies and gentlemen, as we can see, Andrea Alberti, your winner in the end after 14 laps of racing turned, ahead of Lloyd Biddulph P2, Stefano Guidici P3 in the Honda, ahead of fellow Honda driver Phil Garside, and Nick Clemens completing your top 5. Lee Horn fighting well to hold off Ian Deeney for P6, with Deeney behind him P7, and then Mark Sykes, Adam Dillon and Fraser Rostons completing your top 10. Outside the top 10, P11, Craig Murphy in the Toyota, best the rest out of Alan Axon, with Mark Davenport coming home P13, picking up more points on his debut round, ahead of Louis Heskiv and Joe Lane, your final points finisher. Alessio Ganani, P16, your final finisher of the race on the lead lap. And then we have the 4 retirees of Marco Grante, Dario rFactor, Andrea Alberti, and Matthew Williams. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we still do have one more race to go here, of course, at Oulton Park. Race number 3 is going to be coming up very shortly in the Cheshire countryside. But of course, we do have one big question, and that is your reverse grid draw for the final race of the day. Without further ado, we cut to the commentary booth, and I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the racing so far, because I can tell you one thing, we're absolutely loving it here in the commentary booth. And for the uninitiated, here is the Next Gen Racing Lottery Bowl. In here are the numbers 6 through to 12, and very shortly what I'm going to do is close my eyes, put my hand in and draw a ball out of the bowl, and that'll be our reverse grid position for the final race of the day. Without further ado, let's get to it. There's the shuffle, and we draw the ball, and it is going to be, I think for the second time this season, the number 8, which does mean, unless I'm very much mistaken, Fraser Rostons. Well, in fact, it's not going to be Fraser Rostons. My apologies. Let's double check the race results before we say anything further. And it is going to be Mark Sykes who takes the final race grid pole with a P8 reverse grid. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a midfield reverse grid. And who will be the ones to take victory in our final race of the day at Oulton Park? We'll be back in approximately 8 to 10 minutes time for the build up to race 3 and plenty more. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss it. We'll see you very shortly. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, for one last race today, and goodness me, we couldn't ask for a more thrilling conclusion to our racing here at Oulton Park. A top 8 reverse grid awaits us in race 3 of 3, and with the air temperature rising up to 26 degrees centigrade and the track temperature just shy of 33 now, it does seem as though the sun is full and welly setting in, and with that it means now the race is only going to be ever more intense, and indeed we're going to see plenty more battling from in amongst our drivers. But after what has definitely been a challenging first 2 races, with rain besetting race number 1 after a dry qualifying session, and race number 2 seeing the circuit gradually come up to higher and higher temperature in dry conditions, now our drivers will need to contest this final race, knowing that all is on the line for the final set of points today. And as we do look to Stefano Guidici gradually pulling out of the pit lane, I think practicing a start there on where's the pit lane exit going down towards Denton's the right-hander. Well, many of you have been enjoying the racing, no doubt about it, as we do say hello to the Sim Shed in the YouTube chat, who's been absolutely enjoying the commentary, and thank you for the kind compliment there, the Sim Shed, and hope you're doing well. And well, we'd see Ryan Hay in the Facebook chat saying, wonder if the commentator will tell Ross Smith to get a belt. Well, not quite sure in regards to what I might be insinuated or whatnot there, but still, Ross and Ryan, glad to have you tuning in the Facebook, and well, I do believe it might be that Ross isn't quite able to hold on and watch all 3 races, but if not, well, of course, Ross, and to anyone tuning in, if you haven't been able to watch all the racing today, it will be available as video on demand, available on the Next Gen Racing YouTube channel. All you've got to do on YouTube is go to Next Gen Racing. That's all you've got to search for. Indeed, every broadcast we do is available on demand there, completely free of charge. Indeed, our broadcast dating all the way back to the best part, always the last 7 years as we go from strength to strength at Next Gen Racing. But as all tries to get set, and well, thank you, Ross, for clarifying what's going on there. A bit of a running joke or banter between the two of you, which is always great to see as well. Nothing like a good joke between 2 friends. Well, as I try to get ready to go race, they definitely got quite friendly out of the circuit, and well, I think there might not be Christmas cards exchanged between Lloyd Biddulph and Andrea Alberti, no doubt about that, after the 2 came into contact. And well, we speak of Biddulph, and here he is in the i30M fastback, and well, a praying or 2 between them after what was a dramatic race number 1, and then an even more dramatic race number 2 between them. But as he makes his way to the timeline, Biddulph right now be looking for what is a win in the final race of the day, and well, from him we do look to Andrea Alberti, as in the BMW here, he'll be looking at to try and make it 2 wins out of 3 today, after Andrea Romy at Oulton home was the 2nd win, in a bit of an unexpected transition to the final lap of the race, literally crossing the line only 2 seconds after the clock had struck what was at 20 minutes, and we were caught by surprise by that in the commentary booth here. We thought we would have seen 1 more lap by default added onto the race, but not to be, as we get familiar with the rFactor2 simulator platform. Keep in mind, of course, this is our first foray at Next Gen Racing to rFactor2, and what a foray it's been so far. But we're about to make one final foray to Oulton Park today, because it is time to head to the grid for our final race of the day.
Attention grid, will all non-essential personnel leave the grid now.
So as all of our drivers immediately start to get themselves set onto the grid, and indeed that grid clearing, the sun is out here, so it's going to be a bright end to the day of racing at Oulton Park. Well, who out of our drivers will be the brightest out there and shine on high? Well, as they all gradually start to take their slots on the grid. Matthew Williams has been the first driver to make his way onto the grid there. A bit lonely at the moment, but with Mark Sykes starting on at pole position with that top 8 reverse grid after that P8 finish in the 2nd race of the day. I think a bit of pressure on there, as we did see in the Facebook chat him saying help in reference to the fact he found himself in this situation a few times in the NXTGEN or the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship hosted on iRacing, so he's not unfamiliar with taking reverse grid poles, but every time, of course, it's the big change and the pressure of trying to hold on to what could be his potential first win of the season. But as he gets himself set, indeed most of the drivers on this grid now, we're just waiting for a couple more to take their positions, including Stefano Guidici, who'll be starting at P6 and looking to try and make it 2 podiums out of 3 today. Well, all our starting order is now set, and well, the clock is ticking down before they'll be released to go around for their formation lap, and well, Mark Sykes will lead our drivers away. And as he does so, let's take you for that grid for the final race of today. So as they get ready to go racing for race number 3 in round 3, it is Mark Sykes who lines up on pole position in the Vauxhall, ahead of Ian Deeney in the BMW. Lee Horn will take P3 in the Vauxhall, joined on the second row of the grid by Nick Clemens, and then from the BMW Clemens it'll be the Honda of Phil Garside and also the Honda of Stefano Guidici. We then have on row number 4 Lloyd Biddulph in the Hyundai, ahead of Andrea Alberti in the BMW, and then we'll be completing your top 10 there. Adam Delman in the Honda and Fraser Austin's in the Ford Focus. Outside the top 10, best race is Craig Murphy P11 in the Toyota, ahead of Alan Axon in the Honda, and from them on row number 7 will be Mark Davenport in the Toyota, ahead of Louis Hesketh in the Hyundai. Joe Lane starts P15 on row number 8, ahead of Alessio Gonelli, both of them in the Vauxhall. And then our final 2 rows of the grid will be as follows. On row number 9, it'll be Marco Grant in the Honda, ahead of the Hyundai of Dario rFactor. Then Andrea Alberti and Matthew Williams will start P19 and P20, and that is how they'll get underway for our final race today. And we do apologise for the car graphics there, perhaps not always being the correct cars. It seems to be a bit of a graphical glitch, which we're not quite sure what's causing that, but what we can tell you is that there is a thing called cause and effect, and right now, well, the cause is the fact that we've had some absolutely brilliant races in races 1 and 2, and the net effect is we are expecting plenty more in our final race today, and the sun is absolutely beaming high in the sky right now, and well, that means with no sign around the horizon. In fact, you can see there, as we do have the camera tilting up every so often, how there's clear skies around, and all our drivers absolutely ready and roaring to go, no doubt about it. But of course, with a warmer circuit, that means that tyre temperatures are going to get high fast, and our front-wheel drive drivers may just find themselves losing the tyre life a bit quicker than anticipated. And well, if you're a BMW driver such as Ian Deeney, you may be feeling as though there could be an opportunity here for a big score. Could we even perhaps see Deeney go one step further compared to Donington, where he picked up his first podium of the season in the wet conditions, and could he bring on home what would be his first ever win of the season? Well, he'll be feeling as though it's a possibility, and with Lee Horn and Nick Clemens behind, and keeping in mind Clemens had very strong late pace in race number 2, it could also be the opportunity of the BMW driver Clemens to do exactly the same. As all our drivers are now head towards what will be their starting position. Sykes will be taking up the first slot, of course, and indeed everyone else behind just gradually started to queue up here as all the tyre temperature goes in as much as possible, plus the brake temperature. It might be a warm day now. I'll tell you one thing, they need to get those tyres nice and hot before they go green flag racing. And speaking of tyres, we can see majority of the field starting on softs, minus Gonelli and Williams both on the medium, but otherwise everybody else gambling on going with that soft compound. It's going to wear down quickly. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as the field is set, we're just waiting now for what is the last driver to get in position in the form of Williams, and then we will have the countdown. The lights are on. And it's lights out, and away we go for our final race of the day. Sykes gets a good run off the line. Ian Deeney looks to the outside, but can't quite get along. Coming back to the inside here, tries to sneak it on through, but can't do so as all the drivers roar their way through where's the opening set of corners. And as they do, making the way down, it's a bit of a battle further back there as we do see 3-4 wide starting to materialise, as it was in front as well, as we see Sykes lose in the rear of the car, going through Cascades, but he's caught it just in time, or has he? He has, but he's lost the lead of the race and drops down the order, and Ian Deeney leads as they make the way in towards the island hairpin for the first time of asking. Oh goodness me, car going sideways. That is going to be, I think that's Fraser Roston's to the tyre barrier there. There's been some sort of contact. I'm not quite sure what's triggered it off, but I can tell you it's gone so very, very wrong for Fraser Roston, and his race has come to an abrupt halt. But Ian Deeney right now leading with Phil Garside, who's found his way all the way through to P2 with Lee Horn and Lloyd Biddulph side by side as they make the way on through the Hislop chicane. And as they do so, going up towards what would be the Druids corner right now, Lloyd Biddulph wasting no time moving up to P3 with Lee Horn P4 and Stefano Guidici P5 as they make the way on through the double left hand of coming, including with Watertown in towards Druids. Well, right now things start to settle down to a brief degree between our drivers, but Guidici looking to go on the offensive immediately versus Horn and not wasting any time here and trying to go onto the attack, as knowing right now if he can get ahead of Horn, he may be able to go hunting after Biddulph and Garside, but as he looks around the outside trying to cut it back to the inside here of what is Lodge Corner, and Horn knows exactly where to place the car. Well, meanwhile, as they make the way onto the second lap, let's take you through that order after one lap of racing. So it's Deeney ahead of Garside, followed by Biddulph, then it's Horn ahead of Guidici. That's your top 5. Clemens in P6, ahead of Romy P7, Sykes P8, Hesketh P9, and Alan Axon completes your top 10 ahead of Craig Murphy, Bester SP11. But meanwhile, our drivers all come cascading down into the Cascades corner, making the way on through. We need to take a look back at that race start, and in fact we're going to take a look back from further down the order in the form of what was, I do believe, Mark Davenport at the start of the race. do take a look back here at the start of the race, and this was Davenport coming on down. Well, things were clear for Davenport, but what about for Fraser Rostons? He was already to the pits, in fact, I do believe. And, well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, we catch the tail end of a driver going into the wall there, but it seems like we haven't quite got the replay we expected, and we do apologise for that. It does seem to have been a bit of an error with our replay there. It seems to be a bit temperamental, the replay system, and as we do return to live racing, we're not going to get a replay of what happened, but what we are going to do is immediately come back to our lead battle between Deeney and Garside, and we're going to have to look at how the replays work for the purposes of what is our season finale, because we don't want to miss all the action all the way through, and indeed we would like to have seen what happened to Fraser Rostons in a bit more of a clear picture, but still not to be today, as right now our drivers head towards what is the end of their third lap of racing, and well, Garside, they're pushing it a bit too far as he comes out of that Lodge Bend, and as he does so, we're trying to get the car back together, as meanwhile Lloyd Biddulph staying close, but meanwhile further behind we do look back to Andrea Romy on the attack versus Clibbins as they make the way in towards the Old Hall corner, and these two BMW drivers right now, Romy of course starting from what was P8, only making one place off the line, and that's versus Mark Sykes who's behind him in P8, but the key point being for Romy right now is if he can gradually bring himself into this race, particularly in the second half, he may just be able to start picking off drivers as they head on down what is Lakeside and up towards the Island Bend, and meanwhile further behind Joe Lane, they're having a bit of a sideways moment there after battling with Mark Davenport into turn number 1. We see the aftermath, which is Lane falls a lot further down the order from Davenport in their fight for P17. It's not quite gone the way that Lane's wanted it to go, and what we do have was Alessio Ganelli P19 and Fraser Rostons after that contact into what was Island Hairpin has had to retire the car due to the damage picked up, which is unfortunate for Fraser Rostons. He just can't get a break, it would seem, here at Oulton Park today with what is 2 retirements in 3 races. But meanwhile, as we look back to Louis Hesketh, who runs in P10, right now flying the flag for Hyundai as he chases after Alan Axon, Craig Murphy just behind, and well, these 3 equidistant for one another as they head through Water Tower and in towards Druids. And I can imagine right now that for with Craig Murphy, he'll be feeling as though he can potentially reel these drivers in as time goes on in that Toyota. Does seem to be a car that grows in pace later on in the race, but meanwhile behind Andrea Alberti, having started P19, having to pick up another driver here, looking up the inside of P13 versus Matthew Williams, and well, in the end a bit of rubbing between the two of them, a bit of door riding, if you will. Andrea Alberti gets it done though, and it doesn't have to be clean in order to make some progress, and now up 6 positions from where he started with only a quarter of the race complete, and Alberti continues to try and push onwards as much as he rapidly can. But as we do see there run wide from Williams, he'll bring himself back very gradually with, I think, Adam Delman looking to make a move on what will be at Williams in due course. Meanwhile, from our drivers further down the order, we look back inside the top 10, and particularly to our leaders here, and this is Garside, Biddulph, Deeney, Guidici. In fact, what is your top 7 separated by only the margin of 3.2 seconds here as they make the way over Hilltop and down in towards Hislop, and onto the brakes they all go. And as they do, well, Biddulph close right now to Garside, but I wonder whether he's worried about the fact that the whole field is following on through, and all would like an opportunity to go on the attack. And speaking of opportunities, we ride on board here with Nick Clibbins, who spends the opportunity chasing after Horn, but goes a little bit too wide and aggressive down Nickelberg, and immediately there goes Andrea Romy through to take P6 over Clibbins. A small mistake, it cost him big, and as he makes his way in towards Druids Bend, coming through the double right now, Clibbins will know that it's a penalty and he's had to pay, as both drivers there with sliding power oversteer as they make the way out to the right hand. And the point we're talking about much earlier in today's broadcast, that when you're aggressive with the throttle, the car is going to cut loose coming out of Druids, and well, with lockups there from what's both Lee Horn and Andrea Romy. These 3 drivers right now all pushing on, trying to chase down the top 4 as they head on to another lap of racing. But as they do, coming in towards the right hander, we're going through turn number 1, making the way out of the corner and onwards towards what will be turns 2 and 3 very shortly. But it seems though right now a bit of a stalemate between these drivers, and all looking to inch a bit closer. But as they make the way on through, they'll know that closeness is going to be hard to attain, given the fact everyone running in the draft to one another on the straight. Everyone will have about the same top end speed unless they're using a hybrid, and some are not. But meanwhile, it's in the corners where the gains will need to be as they come out of the Island Hairpin once again. As they do, meanwhile look back to Adam Delman, and meanwhile going into Island Hairpin, looking up the inside here for P14 versus Matthew Williams, really able to squeeze his way out the inside. Williams, I think, trying to shut the door firmly shut in the face of Delman. A bit further contact between them as they make the way onto Hilltop, and well, Delman right now up into P14. I think Matthew Williams will have something to say about that as they head down towards the braking zone, but in at the end Delman will be clear, and Williams falls back to P15 there. But Delman definitely having to be forceful to get the job done, but the job has been done in the end as he makes his way through Nickelbrook Corner, and as he does so from them, we look to Alan Axon battling side by side with Sykes P8 as they make the way through Water Tower Corner, and Axon on the rise as they come on through and onwards towards turn 11 they go, and well, can Axon find a way through? He's going to go all in on the move here. He's got the straight line speed, he's got the inside line in towards Wiz Lodge Bend, and as he comes out to the right hander, I don't think Sykes has got a reaction here other than to let it go, as in fact Sykes has to come into the pits. There might be an issue with the car, and that might be an early retirement for Mark Sykes, as meanwhile we do see behind Craig Murphy giving chase in the Toyota Corolla, now into P10. I think he'll be feeling as though there's an opportunity here to chase down P9, perhaps even P8. He gets closer and closer to the back of Louis Hesketh as they break the way down in towards Cascades. Lights on the Hyundai's brakes there, and right now Hesketh doing a good job of fending off the Toyota, as these two do have the encroaching presence of Alberti behind, but hybrid on for Murphy, and here he goes. He looks to roar around the outside on the braking, and well, he's going to be made to go a long way around it, but he can try and cut it back as a grace to the tyre barrier there from Hesketh, taking too much apex curve, and the car bouncing around off of the curb and dropping back onto the asphalt. And as they make the way on down the back straight, we can see there again Hesketh putting the car right in the middle of the road, saying to Murphy, if you want it, you're going to have to go around the outside, and Murphy not taunting it that badly, but right now I think he might do, given the fact that Andrea Alberti is right there with him. The BMW driver has come on strong very quickly indeed, as he looks to try and take P11 and P10, and then subsequently P9 off the Hesketh. As they make the way up towards Druid from our drivers here. Meanwhile, your race leaders are battling side by side in towards Lodge Bend, and that's Garside defending versus Biddulph in the fight. And well, they've given themselves a bit of breathing room with Ian Deeney at the best part of 1.2 seconds behind, but closing very quickly indeed as both drivers going off racing line there as they head towards the midpoint of this race. But as they head in towards the braking zone, through one they go, and in towards Denton's they charge, and both drivers are, I think, cutting plenty of apex curve, and well, I think they're going to be given a warning for track limits there based on the camera angle, so it looks like they were trying to trim the grass as they make their way down in towards turn number 3. That goes to show you how quick and rapid they're trying to chase one another, and in turn as well how much it means to have chased after that win, with Didi right now and Guidici still right there with him. And then it's Andrea Romy who is the best part of 1.6 seconds off of this, as we can see Garside goes a little bit deep. Biddulph looks on the inside as they power their way on the rise. Both drivers will be using the hybrid here to give them all the boost they can as they make their way over the hilltop, but Biddulph not able to quite get involved. Meanwhile, Dini taking a peek on the inside, can't quite find a way in the end, and decides to back out of it as we ride on board here with Ian Dini. And we bring up in the bottom right corner of your screen that extended battle box to show you this battle for first between the top 4 drivers, separated by a second in total, let alone between the drivers. It's so close right now as they make the way on through Water Tower Corner once more. And well, I think Biddulph at Garside, we're going to see around 2 of them making their way onwards towards what will be at Lodge Bend under Warwick Bridge as they make the way under the car loop sign in towards the braking zone they go, and Garside under absolutely tremendous pressure, as meanwhile Dini will know the longer this battle goes on, the more and more it will actually come to him, and given the advantage of tyre life that the front engine rear wheel drive BMW has versus the front engine front wheel drive Honda and also Hyundai, but he's got to be aware of the fact that Guidici is there waiting with him just behind in the Honda, and we looking to try and keep what is Dini honest as they head towards the very end of this race. But as they make the way on down in towards the next braking zone, and meanwhile coming through Cascades, and as you can see Garside practically being pushed around the corner now by Biddulph, as Biddulph's right on his rear bumper. A bit of a tap as they make the way in towards Island Hairpin, and it's going to be Biddulph around the outside, Garside on the inside. Tight line here, as meanwhile there's contact further behind as he's turned. It's Dini, he's turned by Guidici at the apex, and well, I think Guidici there looking for a late move under braking, going full send, and in the end he sent it and got a bit too far with that. I think there might be words between Dini and Guidici after the race today, but as they head in towards Hislops, that will mean that Dini falls all the way down a P10. Unfortunate end to his run to chase after the win, but where one falls, others will rise, and as they make the way up the hill, and meanwhile further behind we can tell you that Hesketh's still battling here on the outside, as meanwhile off the road and rejoining, that is going to be Craig Murphy, who brings it back together after an error, I think of his own volition, going through his lots, but in the end it will be Ian Dini who fends off Louis Hesketh for P9 after all of that. Murphy P11 after that error, and he's got Marco Guarente and where's Adam Delman right behind him, the 2 Hondas giving chase as they make the way through Druids. All gloves are off here, ladies and gentlemen, and overdrives right now absolutely feral, and they're battling. Here comes what is, I do believe, Delmont looking on the inside of Grante as they head in towards Lodge Corner. Rub between the two, further contact as well as they make the way through, and in the end Grante will be pushed to the grass. In fact, I think there's a bit of latency there between the two drives. Things do settle down, but I think as they make the way on towards another lap there, they'll both be looking to calm it down as well, as that could have been tantamount to disaster as they glide the way through turn number 1. But as they go on to the next lap, meanwhile from them, we do look back to your race leaders here, and it's still Biddulph chasing after Garside. And indeed, as they make the way on through the right-hander turn at number 4, and over Hilltop, where it is going to be nose to tail all the way down towards the braking zone, and Biddulph looking and persevering. We're very little peep and nick and tuck, but the problem is at this moment is that he just can't find a way to get under the skin of Garside as we ride on board with the Hyundai driver as close as he's ever going to get to that rear bumper without swiping it every time. And as they power their way up towards what will be Druids this time around, will Biddulph, I think, has tried everything so far in terms of getting too close, coming on through Hislop's, but now he's going for a bit more of a cutback approach here, coming into Druids. Interesting line. This is going to give Biddulph a good run, and Garside immediately sees it and goes defensive. He knows that Biddulph is now starting to think outside the box, and as they head under braking here, Biddulph again looking for the cutback. Garside parks on apex, but Biddulph here will try and deal with the power oversteer, the power understeer I should say, in order to try and steer the car to the inside of his old Hall corner, but decides to back out of it as they make the way onto the next lap. Knowing that he hasn't quite got the traction to do so, and that front tyre life now will be beginning to wane away with only 7 minutes left on the clock. Andrea Alberti is only 3/10 further behind here in this fight, so as they make the way in towards the braking zone at 4 Cascades, with Clemens and Guidici staying close, and Stefano Guidici's dropped down to P5 after the altercation with Ian Deeney only a lap ago. It does mean now that Andrea Alberti really moves into the hot seat here to look to try and make it 2 wins in a row, and 2 wins today as they make the way out of Island Bend, albeit with Guidici just behind and still looking for an opportunity. The Honda driver would like one last run in terms of trying to have an opportunity to get back on the podium once again after a brilliant 3rd place in race number 2 of the day. But meanwhile, it's not just about our top 5 here, as we've got further battling between Adam Delmont and always Marco Grante, and these two still exchanging blows and trading paint as they fight their way out the corner. And what I think right now is getting a bit visceral as Delmont's turned to the tyre barrier, and goodness me, the gloves are off between the two of them, and I wouldn't want to be down the pit lane after this race, I can tell you, because I think there's going to be quite a few words between those two as Delmont returns to the racing, albeit the car missing its rear wing, and that might just be a car coming into the pits at the end of this lap, as meanwhile Mark Davenport looks for an opportunity to come on through here and try and take P15 off of Delmont. But as they make the way out of Knickerbrook Corner, meanwhile from them, Andrea Alberti now looking to try and make some further progress after Alan Axon. The gap is coming down. It's coming down quick by half a second a lap on average as he looks for an opportunity to try and take P7 here after starting P19. And will the BMW driver making progress? The fastest lap of the race, a 23.993 just set by our number 4 BMW driver as he makes his way out of turn number 1. And I think our front engine front wheel drive drivers now starting to really feel the struggle with tyre life. But meanwhile, we look back to leaders here as it's a poor run out of Cascades for Garside. Meanwhile, Biddulph gets a nose ahead into the braking zone for Island Hairpin, but as they do, here comes Romy looking up the inside. It's 3 wide as they head to the apex, and Romy, he takes 1, he takes 2, and there's a drag race all the way up towards Hislop's, and my goodness, Andrea Romy seizing on the opportunity, and can he get it done? Will he be able to fend off Biddulph on the break? Biddulph's not going to give up. He's gone to the outside to inside, he's rolling the car to the apex. They run wide, but as they do, it's contact, and Biddulph retakes the lead of this race. He takes on his rival. Nick Clemens comes on through for P2, and Garside's into P3 as Andrea Romy falls to P4. And what I think Biddulph would argue, given how forceful Romy had to be to get the move done into the hairpin, that he had the right to retaliate going into what was the Hislop chicane. I think the two drivers there definitely getting their elbows out as much as possible. It means so much of taking this win, particularly for Biddulph, who's been deprived of a win today, as they make their way down to the braking zone. And meanwhile here, looking around the outside, is Andrea Romy versus Phil Garside, as the BMW is now being made to show all its potency with the final 4 minutes of this race. And now the tyre life really starting to scratch away at the front wheel drive machines. They make the way onto another lap here. Your top 5 right now, it's a powder keg ready to explode. And I think we've seen the first elements of what will be the flash and explosion from our drivers here, and I don't think it's over yet, as right now Lloyd Biddulph is being chased intensely by Nick Clemens, and either way he looks, he's always got a BMW trying to take away a win from him. And as they make their way down Lakeside, it's going to be Clemens looking around the outside, and Biddulph getting his elbows out, but Clemens doesn't give in as they go too wide, making their way out to the hairpin, but Biddulph's going to run Clemens wide, and Clemens goes sideways, the car goes around, and with a spin, Clemens drops out the fight for the lead. Meanwhile, Andrea Alberti makes his way on through as one BMW falls, another rises, and looking for the move on Alan Axon down the hilltop, and as they make the way into his lots, he can't find his way through, pulling back into P7 behind Axon, who now inherits P6, and as they come through, right into left into right once again at Knickerbrook. Well, I can agree with you there, Ryan. Hey, it's going to end in tears at the face, but chatting with 3 minutes to go, I do wonder who the tears are going to flow for as they make the way on around here with another, what is 2 laps of racing remaining, perhaps even 3. They might even be able to squeeze one in, but we'll have to wait to see. As being, well, a bit further down the order, we do have Louis Hesketh still trying to find his way past Craig Murphy in the fight for P12 Toyota versus Hyundai, and that Toyota right now proving ever obstinate in making sure that cars do not pass it. The only thing it can do is pass cars in front of it, and as they head up through Water Tower, we'll keep our eyes on this battle, but meanwhile we do need to look back to what is the battle for P2 between Garside and Romy as they make the way onto what is likely the penultimate lap of racing now. And will the BMW driver, after almost thinking he'd taken the lead, it was going to be Garside or Biddulph. They were never going to let it go, and in the end Lloyd Biddulph making sure that Romy didn't find a way to cement that lead coming through the Hislop chicane. Was ahead on down Lakeside here. Romy this time looking up the inside, and will Garside looking vulnerable. I don't think he's got the life left in the car as Garside to be able to fight this, and Romy does take P2, and Garside I think now will be looking to try and keep Guidici behind him for the final spot on the podium, but as they head in towards the braking zone for what is Hislops. Well, he's been here before, has Robbie side by side with Biddulph. It didn't work out, and as they make the way on through the quarters where it's a car in front of them, there's a lap down. That is Alessio Ganelli, who have blue flags waved, and he will step aside as he does so there as they make the way up the rise and through the kinks in towards Water Tower corner, but Romy all over the back here a bit as they make the way over Water Tower in towards Druid and into the right hand going. You can see Romy, the life, the rotation on that front end now on the BMW, it's so pronounced, and as he comes out the corner looking to the inside, Biddulph defends once. Meanwhile, they make the line to break, and Biddulph's going to squeeze Romy to the grass, but he's going to look around the outside. It's going to be a brave move once again. He's fought for the right to be there, but Biddulph just manages to squeeze him enough, gives him the space to go racing, but at the same time practice to the point of saying to him, it's only going to end in tears if you force it any other way. And now here comes Garside looking around the outside into Old Hill corner, but with the contact between himself and Romy, Guidici looks up the inside. It's the battle of the two Hondas as they make their way down the first long straight in towards Denton's, and Stefano Guidici returns to the podium positions. As they come down through Cascades corner, is the final lap of racing here today at Oulton Park. All the drivers right now absolutely giving everything all the way to the end, but meanwhile in the battle for your leaders, Biddulph once again defends on the outside, and it's going to be a move around the outside from Romy as they make the way on through. Romy's made to go wide, and Biddulph still getting the elbows out middle. Guidici cuts it back, and Guidici gets the better run versus Romy, understandably so, as he looks to go around the outside down into his Lops corner. Onto the brakes they go, and as they do, Biddulph holding on. Romy still P2, and then it's going to be Guidici P3 at the moment with Garside P4. And then those towers they make around Knickerbrook, and right now Biddulph literally parking the car on Apex, trying to take all the pace out of Romy's car as they make the way up the race, knowing this is where the BMW destroys. There's contact, and it's turned to the wall. There's contact from Guidici to Romy as Romy comes back across the road, and it's disaster, as I believe there as well it was the car on which Phil Garside is collected by Andrea Romy's car. It ends in tears for Romy and Garside, but meanwhile they make the way up towards the final corner. Here comes Guidici's looking for the lunge, but Biddulph's there. He parks the car right in front, but it's going to go. It's going to be a race to the finish line, ladies and gentlemen. Who's going to win? Is it going to be Guidici? Is it going to be Biddulph? I think it's going to be Biddulph just at the line. The checker flag waves, and Lloyd Biddulph is your winner by only what is 100th of a second ahead of Stefano Guidici. Andrea Alberti takes P3 in the end, coming through from P19. It will then be Phil Garside and Lee Horner complete your top 5 ahead of Andrea Romy P6, Alan Axon P7, Nick Clemens P8, Ian Didi P9, Derry rFactor P10, and then Marco Granti will be best of the rest P11. Craig Murphy comes on home P12, holding off fellow Toyota driver Mark Davenport to the line, who's P13, and it will be Matthew Williams who just managed to keep Louis Hesketh at bay to complete the top 15, the pair of them, and Mark Sykes will shortly come through for what will be P16 not in the points after a difficult start to this race, unfortunate for the 666 driver, and then it will be Alessio Ganelli, who I believe has finished a lap down effectively, but will be your P17 finish when all is said and done. But my goodness, you could not make up that ending, ladies and gentlemen. That had everything, and well, I wouldn't be surprised if we've got some rivalries between our drivers. I'm getting flashbacks to the rivalry of Jason Plato and Matt Neal from the 90s Super Touring era, and I can imagine right now the drivers are metaphorically looking to get the other one to throw the first punch. But with that, we've definitely seen some elbows be put out there today, but brilliant batting as well, and it wouldn't be that way if it wasn't touring car. But what a conclusion to this race, and let's take you through those race results as our drivers return to the pits. And well, as we can see, after what was an absolutely fantastic final race of the day, Lloyd Biddulph, your winner after 14 laps ahead of Stefano Guidici, and then Andrea Alberti completed the podium there, and it must be said, started P19, the BMW driver making his way through to P3 at the close. Phil Garside at P4 ahead of Lee Horn, who completed the top 5. Andrea Romy finishing P6 in the end ahead of Alan Axon, with Nick Clemens, Ian Deeney and Dario rFactor2 completing your top 10. And as we then come on to the second half of the field, best of SP11, Marco Granti in the Honda, ahead of the two Toyotas of Craig Murphy and Mark Davenport, with Matthew Williams P14 ahead of Louis Hesketh, who took home the final points paying position of this race. And then Mark Sykes and Alessio Ganelli, your final finishers of this race. Ganelli a lap down, and we had the three retirees of Adam Delman, Joe Lane and Fraser Rostance. But as our drivers make their way into the pit, what a triplet of races we have had. And this is only round 3 of 4. We've got another round to go. But as our Toyota drivers of always Craig Murphy and Mark Davenport coming into the pits, that does conclude all of our racing here today near the town of Little Budworth in the county of Cheshire at the Oulton Park Circuit. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to take a brief breather. But rest assured, we'll be back in approximately 10 to 12 minutes for our post-round interviews. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss them. We'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for our post-round interviews, but unfortunately, we haven't had any of our drivers volunteer tonight for interview, and it's completely understandable. I get the feeling most, if not all of them, expended all of their energy today focusing purely on the hard and fast craft of racing at Oulton Park, and well, I think they all definitely deserve a rest. So we're not going to dwell on it, but thank you to our drivers for absolutely fantastic racing today. I'm sure all of you will agree with me, the race was absolutely sublime, and what we love to see in BTCC racing as part of the Next Gen Racing BTCC mini league, and hopefully we'll get an interview or two with some of our drivers later on in what is round number 4 in a week's time. And we also just want to call out a few mentions and comments in the YouTube and also the Facebook and Twitch chat, including Atom Stew, who's congratulating Lloyd Biddulph for what was that fantastic drive to victory in race number 3. Alex Everett in the YouTube chat saying that things were absolutely insane and getting flashbacks to John Cleland and Soper in the Super Touring era, or just before the Super Touring era touring car, I think perhaps in the 80s and the early 90s, unless I'm mistaken. And Ryan Hay and Ross Smith loving the racing action in the Facebook chat. And Mark Sykes clarifying as to why the car had to come into the pits. He'd only put 15 litres of fuel in the car, worth only 8 laps, so a bit of a mistake there. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you perhaps just sat there right now thinking that you want to be on the grid for a future Next Gen Racing Community event or series, well, we'd recommend that you check out firstly our official website, and that's nextgenracing.co.uk. Our website appearing on screen now. It's the home of clean and fair sim racing for all, and as we continue to go from strength to strength in our hosting series on what is the iRacing Simulator platform and expanding our horizons onto rFactor2 and plenty more we have planned for 2024, now has never been a better time to be on the grid with us at Next Gen Racing. Whether you're a rookie to sim racing or an esports professional, we'd love to have you on the grid, and we'll definitely do check out our website, which has all the details of how you can join our community and get involved and be on the grid for our ongoing or upcoming series. If you don't want to go to our website necessarily, we can recommend you go to our Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing, where similar details to our website are available, but also there you can find out a little bit more about the guys and girls behind the scenes that make Next Gen Racing operate, with a good number of our admins and staff members being real-life track marshals, and even some of them real-life racing drivers. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors, who do include Power Max, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Heens Automotive, IMB Racewear, Sam Cases UK, Douglas Motorsport, and Benji Sim Photos. And well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one round to go, and on Tuesday the 20th of February, set your clock, set the date, because we'll be going racing at arguably the fastest circuit in the UK, and that is the one and only Thruxton Circuit in Hampshire. And who will be our champion when we come to the final checker flag after 3 final races of the season? It's finally poised with plenty of battling between the likes of Andrea Alberti, Andrea Romy and Lloyd Biddulph, but there can only be one winner when we see that final checkered flag fall. Find out how the story concludes at Thruxton Circuit next Tuesday the 20th of February, but until then, we've been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.